And the fish, the same way, took them up, lifted them up, and gave thanks. And the Bible says that they were multiplied, enough to feed the people, and they ate as much as they could, and there were leftovers. That is the power of thanksgiving. So instead of complaining about the little that you have, why don't you just give God thanks? Because when you murmur and grumble, it will give birth to unbelief. But if you want to live in the overflow, if you want to live in the miraculous, learn to give God thanks. Thank God for the wife that you have. Thank God for the children that you have. Thank God for the job that you have. Even before you've gotten that job that you have applied for, thank God for him. And you shall have the miraculous, and you shall live in the overflow. Let us give thanks. Father, in the name of Jesus, we want to thank you, we want to glorify your name. For God, you're not limited, as man is limited. Lord, as Jesus took the 5 loaves, the ones that the disciples looked and they despised that they were so little, Lord, you multiplied them. And Lord, as we give God thanks for the little that we have, I pray, God, for my viewer, may you give them divine ideas that will cause them to walk in the miraculous and in the overflow. In Jesus' name we pray. And everybody say it. Amen and amen.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1 for a program that is objective and offers answers to matters economic, security, social, political, food, infrastructure, and setting the agenda. Join us for Charging Currents.
President Uhuru Kenyatta outlined his vision for the country, a vision of development and economic growth for the benefit of every Mwananchi. Every week on Project 254, we highlight the strides that have been made in improving the lives of millions of Kenyans. Every Thursday at 8:30 p.m.
Next on,
ningependa tuzungumzie adui wa shetani, yaani maadui ambao Iblis anawachukia sana.
Hakika ya sheitani ni adui, na nyinyi lazima mumchukue nani? Sheitani ni adui yenu.
والسماء ذات البروج واليوم الموعود.
this weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Wow! Congratulations, Atito. You know, I've always wanted to put on nangao, put on makeup, you know, things like those.
Very good thing. Atito, my friend, I thought you'll never find love after that, Joanne.
Please leave Jaber out of this.
Okay, now I get this. You are married and you still have unresolved issues.
Julia, leave me alone, okay? Laugh if you must. Laugh, eh? Ato kitaka kupiga duru, piga. Just don't let me see a fool in front of me.
Kinyanju, who said I'm laughing? Okay, you people are so unfair. Why does everybody think that I do not care what happened to you guys?
Guess who the celebrity is? Atito.
Not yet, teacher.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
KBC Channel 1 evokes the full potential of worship in you.
You are the living God. Oh.
You waited for me, just for me.
Join us for an experience like no other when it comes to lifting your soul and giving adoration.
We are here for you.
Worship experience. Praise mix. This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
This week on Wake Up and Makeup, it's going to be a girly girl affair. Cheers! We continue to munch on what I would call a starter before our main course at Chef U's Sushi Bar. this is what makes the coffee so special. We actually have a real gold leaf.
Wow.
I don't think we should drink it. We should probably gather it and take it to jail. Can I make a ring out of it? We can make a gold. Get some tips on how to enjoy a days out with the girls.
Good morning. It's a good morning to have you on board watching KBC Channel 1, and this is Good Morning Kenya, the best and the only way to start your morning. I'm Regina Manyara. Glad to have you on board on a day when all eyes are on the bicameral parliament, as the president is expected to give his address, status of the nation address, this afternoon. And KBC Channel 1 is going to be bringing you the live proceedings from Parliament. Now, what is unique about this state of the address is that only 114 members of Parliament are going to be allowed to have a seat in during this session, owing to the COVID-19 health protocols, where 88 seats of those are going to be reserved for MPs, and the rest are on come first, first served basis for the senators as well as any other person. And there's not going to be any other person, I'm sorry for that, is that MPs are not allowed this time to invite guests. We're going to be looking at Kenyans' expectations as well as what we would like to preempt as what the president is going to be keenly focusing on in this address, as well as looking at other stories that are making headlines both locally, regionally and internationally, including what is happening in the United States now with Donald Trump having not considered defeat yet of the just concluded U.S. elections, while other state heads have not even congratulated Joe Biden. What then does it mean for the legal team in the United States of America? That and so much more will be coming up in not too long in the headlines.
Welcome once again to Good Morning Kenya. Glad you are with us. My name is Jane Boy. Kama kawaida, we thoroughly appreciate you for making time to be with us this morning right here on Good Morning Kenya. Now, aside from keeping up with what your expectations are going to be in regards to the State of the Nation address, which will be coming on later on in the afternoon, we're also going to be having a conversation with one Dr. Duncan, who is a representative from the NTSA. Given this coming Sunday, we are going to be marking the World Remembrance Day, just looking back at victims of road accidents, and more so during this time that we are slowly but surely easing into the festive season here in the country. Amid this pandemic, we still have to take charge of our lives and just try to see how we can keep the number of road accidents at the least possible threshold. So that is a conversation we're going to be having today as we gear up to celebrate World Remembrance Day, which will be happening this coming Sunday, the 15th of November. All that and so much more coming up right here on Good Morning Kenya, as well as a quick look at the dailies this morning, just to see what has been captured on What Daily this morning. So do talk to us. You can be part of this conversation using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle ever remains at KBC Channel 1 News. And do remember to tag us individually at Jane Mamboy, at Ray Manyara, at Doreen Arange, and at Sam Njoroge. Stay with us. We get started with In the Headlines in a bit.
Good morning once again. If you're tuning in, indeed, this is In the Headlines on Good Morning Kenya. Now, I have the copy of the Standard this morning. I'd want to give you a sneak peek, or rather an overview, what I'd like to refer to as an overview of the front page of the Standard this morning, being the 12th of November 2020. Now, that's how it looks like. Prominence there given to stories on the team edits the BBI report. This is in line to what we've been keenly focusing following the report being made public less than a week or 2 weeks ago. Now, referendum, the handshake politicians led by Orengo, Pogisho, Junei and Kimunya as well as Kangata were last evening reported to be making final changes to that report ahead of the signature collection expected to commence next week. Have you read the copy or have you read the report? You need to read so that we can make a decision from an informed point of view. Further on, Uhuru's bullet. That's what we have as the main header on the Standard this morning. Why? What bullet are we talking about? You may be asking yourself. Now, eyes on the prize. President Uhuru Kenyatta makes his second last State of the Nation address in Parliament this afternoon on the backing of gripping national challenges that have recast his priorities. We're going to be delving more into what we expect the president is going to be focusing on, or rather prioritizing in this state of address, just also doing a comparison with his last year's address. Remember, this is entrenched in law that he has to give this address, and it is set to always happen in the first quarter, but owing to the COVID-19, which scuttled that particular process, we are having this address this afternoon. Now, some of the highlights that have this article has picked out for that particular address. We don't know if you agree with that or not. Remember, we are live and we look forward to hear your feedback on our social media platform that is at KBC Channel 1 News. Now, the coronavirus pandemic is set to take center stage, as well as a BBI and handshake, as well as big plans, no cash. Now, the economy is battered, public debt, unemployment that records at record levels with no sight of respite, as well as a Big Four agenda. Human interest also has captured the front page of the Standard this morning, with nature wins. Yes, matters of nature taking center stage. The fig tree that stood its ground. That's an article that has been given prominence on the front page of the Standard this morning, and they're actually providing the main pick for the front page of the Standard this morning, the fig tree. If you're a Christian and you peruse through the Holy Book, you know what that the fig tree has been quite mentioned in the Holy Book. We'll be looking at what this means, on our local scene. There's an article that has been highlighted on page 5. That's what we have on the front page of the Standard this morning.
All right, let's now get to the front pages of the Daily Nation and the Star newspapers. We start off with the Daily Nation. The main story there on the front page of the Daily Nation, another grand scandal, corruption scandal. And now, still in light with what is happening in our country with the COVID-19 pandemic, MPs told connected influence peddlers walked into and out of the agency with big deals, and this is in regards to some 4 billion Kenya shillings COVID tenders that were dished out via phone, and top KEMSA officials threw these procurement regulations out the window and awarded multi-million shilling contracts for the supply of face masks and sanitizers to firms that were not qualified through phone calls, and in a move that has been termed as a brave scandal that we have seen in the recent past. Details of all this has been captured on page 4 of the Daily Nation, which we'll be getting to in a bit. Still keeping up with the front page of the Daily Nation, pictured therein is President Uhuru Kenyatta, and the caption reads, Kenyans' wish lists to Uhuru. This is in regards to the State of the Nation address, which will be happening today. Of course, we welcome your expectations in regards to what you are hoping the president is going to touch on as he gives the status update on how the country has been faring since the last address that happened last year, the 4th of April. Remember, this State of the Nation address usually happens in the first quarter of the year, but due to the state of the country as we are in, and not just even the country, the whole world, this pandemic threw the entire global population into a state of disarray, and therefore this State of the Nation address is happening on this last quarter of the year. But looking at the major issues that have been highlighted by most Kenyans that they're hoping President Kenyatta is going to address, they range from number 1, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic, number 2, the battered economy, Number 3, we have corruption cases, and of course this comes as just this past Monday, DPP boss did give a report to the president indicating that they have cases that are still pending, but they're hoping to be closed soon, totaling to a sum of about 224 billion Kenya shillings in grand corruption scandals. Of course, having mentioned some big fish who are also coming up, the big fish names that are coming up in this case, including a total of about 11 CSs. We have senators, we have managing directors, as well as CEOs being mentioned as part of those big fish that are that are involved in those corruption cases. Number 4, education. How will the country move forward with this state of that we are in with this pandemic? Education being, of course, at the forefront and one of the areas that has been thoroughly affected. And number 5, issues to do with crime and mental health. Mental health has been one of the challenges that have actually been come out as a result of this pandemic, and as well crime as well has also shot up during this time. So those are just some of the expectations that many Kenyans are hoping the president is going to address as he gives the State of the Nation address later on in the day. Now, to just have a quick look at the Star newspaper this morning. The front page, the main story there in regards to Mr. Gisheru, and the fact that now a key witness told the ICC that she watched in horror as a woman was raped, and this was what was happening back in 2007, 2008, the post-election violence period. And now a Kiamba Church survivor has been linked to this Gisheru case, where at least 30 people were burnt in Eldoret, in an Eldoret-based church back in 2008. Pictured therein, the best and worst senators. Leading the best pack, we have Mutula Kilonzo Jr., his counterparts Kipchumba Murkomen of Elgeyo Marakwet, as well as Legwe of Samburu. And the worst ranked senators, we have Ibrahim Abdullahi of Wajir, Wario Juma Tana River, and Mwangi Githiomi of Nyandara. Why were they ranked so? We'll be getting to those details in not too long as we proceed on with this segment in the headlines.
Now, how about we give you the details of the stories that we have highlighted as captured by our various newspapers, as well as KBC Channel 1 news desk that has a picture and sound of some of the stories that are making headlines. Now, we start off with the expected, state of address by the president this afternoon at the bicameral parliament, where we have 114 members of parliament are going to be sitting in this address. That's a reduced number given the COVID-19 health protocols that we are all observing as Kenya rides the second wave. Now, details, let's just have the version that Standard has captured there. Now, tough times for nation as Uhuru makes key speech. Now, today's address before the joint sitting of National Assembly and Senate comes in the background of economy ravaged by COVID-19 and deep political divisions. Now, there's also a comparison to what had been given prominence last year by the president vis-a-vis what we expect is going to be taking center stage this afternoon. Now, at the same time, we have the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force that is still collecting views, and the shilling was exchanging at 101. That was last year. Remember, the president, he's honor bound by the law to give this state of the address at least every year, and it happens beginning the first quarter, but things are a bit different in 2020 owing to COVID-19. Now, the president's address last year, he said that he expected the economy to grow to an annual average of 6.6%. Now, and there was no turning back on the war against corruption and impunity. The BBI then appeared as the magic dosage to heal Kenya and the Jubilee's Big Four agenda, legacy projects, manufacturing, that is food security, universal health coverage, and affordable housing. Last year, the president also promised there would be no turning back on devolution and that the cost of food will come down. Those were promises that were made by President Uhuru Kenyatta in last year's speech in April 2019. Facts and figures indicate that the data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics now indicate that 1.7 million Kenyans lost their jobs between April and June alone, and the economy has contracted to 5.7% during the same period. Remember, we ask you for your feedback, and we are live on our various social media platforms. What do you think the president is going to prioritize in this year's address in light of the current economic status as well as matters of COVID-19? The article there on page 6 of the Standard has highlighted what the president promised the government is going to focus on in last year's address, and some of them have not been met. Exactly there. I don't know what you have on your end, Jane, because there we had the president saying that he expected that the economy is going to grow at a rate of 6.6%, but data indicates that the economic growth has shrunk to 5.7%.
And I remember just last night I was going through an article where there was actually that analysis where they're looking at the promises that were made, the state of the nation that was given during that time, the promises that were made, and whether the facts that were being mentioned then were actually factual, and looking at the progress so far. And true to it, some of them haven't been met, but looking at the state that the country has been in this year, there's so much more that we could have done as a nation, but couldn't be done due to issues that were beyond us. And this pandemic has definitely proven to be one of the key factors that has derailed the economy. And this is not just a situation in Kenya, you know. This is a global situation. So in as much as, you know, we are not where we expected to be, we have done good with what we have. So let us just wait and see what the president is going to be telling us in terms of how the economy has braced, how it has survived. I remember just last week, even Safaricom reported for the first time a loss in a span of 9 years. And this was due to the simple fact that they removed transaction charges for any transactions that are below 1,000 bob. So you can clearly see what a small change can do to an entire economy. But let us wait and see what the president is going to be telling us today in regards to how the country has been faring for the past year or so. Actually, almost a year and a half since the last address. And of course, we all know the situation on ground, but we also we remain hopeful to see what the president will say. Now, at least that was also been captured just the same, looking at the promises that were made last year and what the people are expecting. And even the BBI conversation has definitely been given prominence here on the Daily Nation. But coming to this story that is both on the front page of the Daily Nation and the Star newspaper this morning in regards to how senators have been ranked. This was a survey that was conducted between November and January, November last year and January of this year. It was termed as the Senate Elected Leaders Performance Index by Infotrack. Some 37,600 individuals were interviewed across all the 47 counties. The story will be coming up on your screen in a bit. They were looking at how senators are perceived by the populations through which, in which they operate with. And looking at this particular report, Kalonzo Jr., Mutula Kalonzo Jr., comes at the top of this particular list after succeeding his father back in 2014. Makueni's Mutua Kilonzo Jr. Has been ranked as the best performing senator, followed by Elgeyo Marakwet counterpart Kipchumba Murkomen, and coming in third position is Samburu Senator Steve Lilegwe. And looking at how Mutula has been ranked, he scored 66.4%, followed by Murkomen with 58.8%, and Samburu Senator coming in third with 57.2%. Others who are in this top 10 list are Kwale's Isa Juma, Kakamega's Cleophas Malala. We also have Fatuma Dulo of Isiolo, Kericho's Aaron Cheriot, Tharaka-Nithi Kithure Kindiki, Irungu Kangata of Murang'a, and West Pokot's Samuel Pogesio. Now, this poll again was conducted in all 47 counties. A total of 37,600 individuals were interviewed. with each county being allocated a quota sample averaging to about 600 to 2,000 individuals, also depending on the size of the county. Given Nairobi was much bigger, has a larger population, of course, was given a larger quota sample. And they examined each county as an individual unit, and the question they were asking the respondents is how they would rate the overall performance of their senators on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 meant worst and 10 meant best. Mutula Kalonzo Jr., clearly, who is serving his second term in office, was ranked as the top leading senator. And of course, this has been based on some of the bills he has sponsored in Parliament, and the most popular one being the 2/3 gender principle through the creation of special seats. Those who have been ranked in the bottom 10 are we have Ephraim Maina, we have Mohamed Faki, Hagura Godana, we have John Kinyua, Charles Kibiru, Amos Wako, Philip Mpaye, Michael Mbito, Mwangi Githiomi, Abdullahi Ali, and Wario Juma. All those are in the bottom 10 when it comes to how they were ranked by their county individuals who were interviewed in those particular counties.
What can I say, Jane? At least I'm happy that my senator was, is doing well. That is none other than Kindiki Kithure. That now some of the names that you've mentioned are the ones that, bottom 5, 10. Some of the names, those are names I only heard while, during the election period when we were saying who's won, who's not. They have not made any impact.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we are almost towards the tail end of the year, and I'm looking at the term of office, rather, before we get to the next elections. We've all been talking about succession politics, BBI, now what it's going to be, what it is going to mean, going forward in the next election. So I think they need to pull out their socks. And at the end of the day, there's this term that Kenyans need to understand, and it falls on, knowing your civil rights. The taxpayer, Wanjiko ni mwenye nchi. So you need that service. It's not a favor. And talking about favors and such, there's a lot of expectation ahead of the president's address this afternoon, and our reporter Ben Chumba compiled this following report to just look at what angles the president has, or other options he's going to be looking at and giving priority in this year's State of the Nation address. Here's a report.
In accordance with Article 132 of the Constitution that requires the head of state to address Parliament every year, President Kenyatta is scheduled to address the nation Thursday to reassure the country on efforts in realizing his legacy-defining projects. Top on the list will be the Big Four agenda, where the president will likely take stock of the efforts made by his administration in to actualize his programs. With the ongoing BBI debate, the president may also root for Building Bridges Initiative report, which he believes will deliver equity and national unity. President will also report to Parliament the measures taken to contain the COVID-19 pandemic, which has negatively affected the economy of the country. The head of state will also highlight the progress by his government on war against graft, as well as progress made in fulfillment of international obligations and state of security. President Uhuru has in the past delivered the address between the month of March and May. Last year, President Uhuru gave the address on 4th April, unlike this year's address, which has been delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic. The House attendance will be in compliance with the social distancing directive by the Ministry of Health, with only 114 members of Parliament expected to attend the sitting. Ben Chumba, reporting for Channel 1 News.
All right, that is just what was happening. But of course, the national broadcaster is going to be bringing you the live proceedings of that particular State of the Nation address, which will be happening later on in the afternoon. And again, we ask you, what are some of your expectations in regards to what you are hoping the president is going to touch on as he gives the State of the Nation address? Of course, bearing in mind the key issues that have been cutting across and affecting the country since last year, since the last State of the Nation address, and building up to what this year has shown us just in itself. We welcome your thoughts and talk to us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya. We are here to just share your views and your thoughts in regards to your expectations of the State of the Nation address later on in the day.
Indeed, as you've said, we're going to be giving you live proceedings of that particular address. Now, just to bring you to another story that has been making headlines, Kenya is riding the second wave of COVID-19, and there's an article here on page 9 that has, highlighted the plight of frontline workers. Remember, come March, when Kenya confirmed her first case, we went all out in, having the o'clock moment where we clear for frontline workers, but it has soon died off. And the questions that are being raised here is that, some nurses at different county levels are worried about the rate of exposure because they lack PPEs. Now, this article here has acknowledged top doctors who have fallen to COVID-19. Now, some of the victims were leading experts in their areas of practice. Their deaths are a reminder of the dangers doctors are exposed to in the fight against the pandemic. Allow me to just mention the few who have been, mentioned here in this article. We have Dr. Robert Ayisi, Dr. Hudson Iyangala, Dr. Doreen Lugaliki, and Dr. Daniel Alushula. Now, the statistics indicate that 9,826 is the number of licensed doctors in Kenya, and 2,606 of them have specialized in various fields of medicine. Now, it is estimated with a 14 million population in Kenya, the ratio is 1:5. That is doctor-patient ratio, which is against the World Health Organization recommendation of 1:1. So far, we have only 120 orthopedic surgeons in Kenya and approximately 300 general surgeons. It's an article that has highlighted how the medical fraternity is, affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. That's an article that has been given prominence in the Standard this morning. And I see it's just before we take our first break, as we say, as per tradition. That is what has been happening as far as COVID is concerned at a time when, some nurses in various counties are considering downing their tools over exposure on PPEs.
All right. And that story has also been captured here on both the Daily Nation and the Star newspapers. And just looking at the Star, it says that 50 COVID deaths in just 2 days, the highest yet. Yesterday, we had 26 more patients who succumbed to this disease, and the previous day was the high that was previously recorded at 24, but yesterday topped the highest number of deaths in a 24-hour span since the first case was reported back on the 13th of March, back earlier on this year, and bringing the total number of death toll here in the country to 1,180 cases. Looking at the cases that the people who tested positive yesterday, the number stood at 1,216 from a sample size of 6,816, bringing the positivity rate as of yesterday to 17.8%. Now, the World Health Organization did recommend back in May that in order to declare a country as having controlled the spread of COVID-19, we need to maintain 5% and under for a period of 2 weeks. We were almost doing it, but then again, as Regina likes to say, we are riding the second wave of infections here in the country, and more of these cases are community spread, and now the cumulative tests that have been done stand at 760,775 cases and a caseload of 65,804 from that sample size. And just looking at the Daily Nation, Kagwe now urges caution on COVID-19 vaccine that is being developed by the U.S. firm. Now, yesterday we did see that, there was a story indicating that vaccine that is being worked on the third phase of it, the trial part, being worked on by two pharmaceuticals, one based in the U.S. and another one based in Germany, both giant pharmaceuticals. They did say that there is hope. It has proven to be effective, at least 90% effective when it comes to the prevention of COVID-19. But looking at developing low-income and middle-income countries, they're going to be receiving these doses much later than they hoped. But now the CS urges caution when it comes to this vaccine that is being developed by the U.S. firm. He expressed his reservations about the effectiveness of this vaccine that is being developed of course, by the pharmaceutical giant. And the company on Monday said that the vaccine is 90% effective, but Kagwe did appear on Wednesday, that is yesterday, and said he has doubts about the vaccine. In his words, he said, "I am told the vaccine is supposed to stop one from getting the virus. How do they know that the person is going to get the virus? Perhaps I will be educated and will not ask silly questions." Later on in the day, we saw Mr. Kagwe releasing a statement saying that, quoting, he was quoted out of context and added that Kenya will not make any pre-orders for the vaccine. And in his own words, he said that we would wait for globally and scientifically approved and acceptable vaccines. We are on the side of caution when it comes to this particular vaccine that is said to be having 90% effective potential when it comes to preventing the spread of COVID-19.
Playing cautious it is there in as far as matters of health are concerned. Now, talking about playing cautious is that KBC Channel 1 was televising the match between Harambee Stars and Comoros, where, Harambee Stars were frustrated to a 1-1 draw by Comoros yesterday in the first leg of the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers clash at Kasarani Stadium. Now, what this means is that Harambee Stars now face an uphill task on Moroni after a 1-1 draw against a combative Indian Ocean country. Remember, if you want to catch, a replay of this match, you can find it on our website. That is www.kbc.co.ke. Now we take a short break. We'll be taking a short break in not too long. There, we expected a break, but it seems producer says we have so much on our plate. We can take it. We can take another go and see what is been making headlines. I want to take you or draw your attention to what is happening in the United States of America. There, as captured on the front page of the Standard. There, calm down, Donald. KOT troll Trump. Now, public nuisance? Well, we don't know. It's raining memes on social media as Kenyans ridicule American president for refusing to accept electoral defeat, mocking and the self-styled strongman and a genius who has made America the butt of all jokes. Let's find out what this cry meant by that, Now, it seems one person here, Kenyan, is quoted in this article. So Donald Trump, his official Twitter handle, this is what he said. "I don't care what state you're in. This computer voting system is wide open to fraud and intervention. To lose jobs, true, and wait until you see what is coming." So a Kenyan took to Twitter. Kenyans on Twitter, KUT, yeah? Giste Wakabiro says Donald Trump will soon be sworn in as the people's president early in January. So looking at Kenya's history, remember after we went to the polls, the recent polls, we had the people's president being sworn in while the president-elect had already was taking office. So in a it's weird turn of events, in an election that was highly televised and got a lot of attention, not just here in Kenya but globally, Kenyans just won't let Trump go down quietly. Remember, reports coming in from the United States is that the president has not yet conceded defeat, even after, the statistics and the numbers showed that Joe Biden of the Democratic Party is the 46th of the United States of America. Now, this is an article that you'll find quite entertaining this Thursday. Remember, it's still Entertainment Thursday, in as much as we are keeping it a bit serious today, given that we're expecting the president's address this afternoon. It's an article you can find very hilarious and entertaining this Thursday. It's on page 3 of the Standard this morning. Kenyans just won't let Trump go down quietly.
And speaking of memes, there's one that I came across. It was actually a video. Halloween was just being celebrated the other day, and there was one American who was going around just taking videos of houses that have been decorated, Halloween setup. There's one, he was like, cute, very simple and scary. Then there was those who were going overboard when it comes to this horror things that are put out there. And then there was somebody who had put up a Trump Pence post outside their door, and he was like, my God, you don't need to go overboard when it comes to these Halloween decorations. You don't need to scare people that much with a Trump Pence poster outside their house. But that story in regards to what is happening in the U.S. has also been highlighted here on the Daily Nation. Biden telling the world America is back as he prepares to take office come January, in as much as Donald Trump has refused to concede defeat, an embarrassment and a move that has been termed as an embarrassment and dismissive, as he continues to refuse to let go of the top seat. Now Joe Biden tells world leaders America is back in the game, y'all, as he prepares to take office come January. So you can get to read how that story has been captured there on the Daily Nation. Now getting to the Star, and let us bring the conversation back to Kenya. This is a report that was put out by the Food and Agriculture Authority. They say that a small swarm of mature desert locusts have been sighted in Mandera. These locusts are said to have arrived near Mandera County in the northeast from Somalia, and they are looking as though they're going to be hatching soon, or rather hatching had occurred in the northern part of Samburu, and there were a third Insta-hopper bands. And according to one Hamisi Williams, who is the Kenya Deputy Representative of the Food and Agriculture Organization, he said that there are still 2 or 1 swarms in Samburu County in the Siguta Valley area. And he was actually quoted saying that control has been taking place and is no longer a big threat. Turkana County is also clear of locusts so far. He further went to say that the Food and Agriculture Organization has prepared for any eventualities that may arise or may come by the end of December in regards to the fight against this desert locust situation that had ravaged the country. Remember, early on in the year, we were dealing with this pandemic before the COVID-19 pandemic hit the country. But the Food and Agriculture Organization has warned that desert locust swarms from Ethiopia and Somalia could cross into parts of northern Kenya by the end of this month of November. Saying that these early and ongoing rains have led to new cycle of breeding and fresh swarms that are forming in Ethiopia, Somalia, and Yemen. Now, these immature hopper bands have also been identified in some areas of Eritrea, Sudan, and Saudi Arabia as well, and are likely to form new swarms that might make their way to the northern parts of our country, as well as the Horn of Africa, as the winds blow southwards, again raising concerns as to whether they're going to be reaching Kenya sometime next year. So that is this alert that the Food and Agriculture Organization has sounded when it comes to the state of locusts that have been ravaging the country earlier on in the year.
Now, talking about locusts, I remember there was a question that Kenyans were asking on social media. So what happened to the locust? Now, it seems that has been put. Yes, the locust disappeared with the lockdown. Now, it seems, it's a cycle. Remember, this is an anomaly last witnessed 70 years ago. Now, taking you back to the political scene and focusing on matters of BBI, as captured on the front page of the Standard. To get to the details of that is that Uhuru Raila walk a tightrope in a bid to block BBI changes. Now, some of the areas that have, drawn a lot of some of the contentious issues, as per the Deputy President, that is William Ruto, he rejected at least 5 proposals in the document, including the expansion of the executive, appointment of IEBC commissioners, and the judiciary ombudsman. At the same time, this week on Tuesday, former Premier Raila Odinga said he ruled out any significant amendments to the document launched at the Bomas of Kenya. Quoted here, he says that there is significantly little chance of significant new ideas being brought into the BBI document ahead of the referendum, except for editorial work to make it explicit on demands by various groups where it sounds vague or general, as is the case with the issue of pastoralists. On the other hand, Jubilee Secretary General Raphael Tuju says what we need to do is to go out there and put the questions for Kenyans to decide. We cannot be blackmailed by people who are pushing for individual interests. It is the people of Kenya they are trying to blackmail by these demands. Is it? While Suleiman Yeri prepared a report to just tell us what is new and what is happening in as far as the BBI debate rages on. Here's a report.
The Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the Senate is now proposing a raft of amendments in the Building Bridges constitutional reforms in the aim of strengthening the mandate of the Senate. Tabling the motion in the House, JLAC Chairperson Okongo Omogeni says that despite supporting the constitutional changes, they insisted that the composition of the Senate should remain as it is and oppose the creation of women's seats.
That the proposal to delete Article 123 from the Constitution should be disregarded and the prevailing position be retained so that senators who are delegates from counties are allowed to cast their votes as delegates.
A proposal which divided down the House, with female leaders saying they stand to gain more leadership positions as per the report.
So what I am opposing is the fact that we want to tamper with the gains that we are making, and we must know that Kenya belongs to all of us. We need each other.
So, Madam Speaker, I beseech our colleagues that the 47, if we wanted an amendment, we should say that if they are moving, let them move with the funds, if that is what they want them to do.
This is a live wire material that we need to speak to. And in support of BBI or not in support of BBI, whichever the way, we need to be given as senators time to scoop this matter, please.
Their male counterparts, however, questioned the motive of the proposal, saying it does not aim to enhance the House.
But I want to encourage us that this House is under assault. This House is under attack. And to destroy this House is to destroy devolution. And we should not give our detractors an opportunity to see that we don't speak with one voice and assault us even more.
The other 5 positions, you're voting on the basis of the strength of an individual. How comes it is only the Senate that you want to reduce it to be voted on the basis of gender, where you're voting a man and a woman? If you feel that you want to be completely inclusive, then pass on the same provision right from member of county assembly all the way to the president.
With the BBI proposing that the cabinet ministers to be picked from the National Assembly, JLAC is proposing to have the mandate to vet the cabinet nominees and also have powers to summon them.
Now that we have rearrangement of the executive, Madam Speaker, there should be clarity, Madam Speaker, that to enhance the oversight role of the Senate, the Prime Minister and all cabinet ministers should be allowed to appear before the Senate to respond to questions on accountability as may be raised by the Senate.
Senate is also not comfortable to have National Assembly have a say in the division of revenue, given that the executive will be part of the House. Suleiman Yeri, Channel 1 News.
All right. With that, we want to just put a cap on matters concerning in the headlines. Remember, we had 3 copies of the Daily Nation, the Star, and the Standard newspapers, a copy each of the 3 dailies, just trying to look at what has been captured on the different stories. Of course, issues to do with the State of the Nation address have been taken center stage on all the 3 dailies. I believe you are now better positioned to go ahead and decide which paper best resonates with you as you go about your day. We want to take a quick break, but do stay with us. We have more of Good Morning Kenya coming up in not too long.
All right, good morning to you. This Thursday, we bring you live traffic updates on location. And this morning, I'm stationed at the University roundabout, one of those busy roundabouts as it connects all the way to Uhuru Highway. Actually, this is where Uhuru Highway begins, coming from Wayaki Way, branches off to the other side of University Way, as well as State House Road. Now, just right behind me, this is actually the image of Wayaki Way, coming all the way from the areas of Westlands as you head over to the city center and all those estates thereabouts. Look at that specific lane where traffic is really building up. In fact, moving at a pretty slow pace there on the other side as it branches off to the University Way. On that specific lane, actually the one leaving city center, coming through University Way as you branch off to the other side of Uhuru Highway. That's just where there's a bit of a gridlock. But then again, it is specifically on that lane as you head over, just as you come over to the city center. But then again, also one thing I've noticed throughout this entire roundabout is the traffic police. I can tell you for sure they are stationed at each and every roundabout trying to see how best they can control traffic. They are in as you come now to Uhuru Highway, actually now where it begins again on that stretch that heads over all the way to Kenyatta Avenue, all the way to Haile Selassie Avenue, as well as the Nyayo Stadium roundabout before you just get to Mombasa Road. On that specific lane, look at that traffic there, heavy kind of traffic. Again, just on the specific lane thereabout. But on the other side, so on the flip side, as you leave the areas of Valley Road, the areas of Nyayo Stadium, Langata, coming through Uhuru Highway before you join to State House Road. On that specific one, yes, there's traffic, but at least a moving kind of traffic. But then again, also just as I mentioned, the traffic police are also stationed everywhere throughout this entire roundabout trying to see how best they can control traffic. Again, one of the things that I've noticed on this specific road is the motorcyclists rather not using the cyclist lanes. Remember that this is one of those areas where we saw the NMS trying to ensure they put in place the cyclist lanes as well as pedestrian walkways. However, it looks like the cyclists are tending to use the roads which are meant for vehicles instead of using the cyclist lanes. But yes, in as much as that's what is happening here, this is how the road situation looks like in terms of traffic, just an all around on what is happening throughout the entire roundabout. But again, also on the other side of State House Road, it's just a smooth sailing for you. So again, if you're coming from Wayaki Way, coming from the University roundabout, tending to use that specific road, then it's just a smooth sailing for you, no traffic at all. But then again, also things are just opening up, at least on major parts of this specific roundabout. But yes, in as far as traffic is concerned, that is how it's looking like at this hour across the entire University Way roundabout. Jane.
Ketwapo, letting us know the actual situation on ground that is around the University Way roundabout. So do stay with us to get more updates on how the roads will be looking, especially if you are looking to get into the Central Business District area. So right now, we get into the first discussion for the day. And as I had mentioned earlier on, today we're going to be having a conversation in regards to the forthcoming 25th edition of the World Remembrance Day, just looking at road accident victims, both who have succumbed to road accidents and those who have been affected in one way or the other, trying to see how we can make our roads safer, and more so during this season that we are going into as a country, in as much as we are smack in the middle of this pandemic. This season has always been occasioned by so many accidents, so many lives being lost on the roads. But what can we do to make sure that, we try and bring these numbers down, but looking at also how we can honor those who have gone ahead of us as a result of road accidents? To join us and helping us with this discussion this morning, we have Dr. Duncan Kibogong, who is the Deputy Director in charge of Safety Programs and Public Education at the NTSA. Karibu sana, Daktari.
Asante sana.
Thank you for making time to be with us this morning.
Karibu.
Now, just starting with this, the 15th of November coming up this Sunday, before we get deeper into this discussion, why is this day important? Looking at a day where we get to honor those who have passed on and the victims of also road accidents who have survived.
Yes, thank you so much, Wamboy. I think as you've just started, right, I'll continue from what you're saying. World Day of Remembrance of Road Traffic Victims is a global event,
yes,
commemorated and observed all across the globe, in different cities, in different areas, different communities across the globe. And it's a day set aside by the United Nations General Assembly right from about now 15 years ago. The whole idea is to commemorate those who have died over that period of time,
Yes.
and even those injured and those maimed, and as well work towards supporting programs touching on matters of safety, basically to bring it from the ground and make it an agenda on the table across other programs in government and the private sector,
Yes.
and in and across the community, so that it becomes an agenda of the day. I'll put it this way, that for your viewers, so that they understand the kind of the problem we have, or how big the problem is that globally you are talking about 1.35 million persons dying every year, annually, because of this problem. And this is continuously becoming a bigger problem. The irony about it is that this is a problem which is happening in low and middle income countries. It's worse off in low and middle income countries like ours, and yet we have low motorization levels. Unlike high income countries, they have high number of vehicles in the roads. Their paved roads network is a bit longer, bigger of course, but they have proportionately lower numbers compared to ourselves in Kenya and other countries. So we look forward to commemorating this day event. It's usually on the third Sunday every November, and it brings all the stakeholders, and as I said, it involves virtually everyone, because we've always said that this problem, either you've been affected by this problem, or you know someone who has been affected by it, one or the other.
At one point or the other.
Yes.
And looking at the fact that most of these accidents and as a result deaths have been happening in low and middle income countries, what are some of those long-standing reasons that as an organization you have been seeing remain to be a problem in Kenya, and also could be a problem in other parts of the country, but what you have seen here in Kenya that have remained to be a problem year in, year out?
Yes, the major cause, or what is making road traffic injuries, or rather road traffic crashes to happen, the major problem is what we always classify as the human component. At times people call human error, but as we call it human component, the contribution from the human being self, the road user. So this is a situation whereby it's largely behavioral in nature. When I say largely behavioral in nature, is because how you behave on the road really determines whether a crash happens or not, which involves you or involves another road user or another vehicle. And much of, or majority of these are some of the areas, including, for example, drink driving, drug driving, issues to do with speeding. Speeding is one of the biggest risk factor. Speed is largely determined by your behavior. If you choose to go to low speed, then your chance and probability of getting a crash is dramatically low. But if you go at high speeds, then definitely a crash happens. Issues to do with reckless driving, overtaking badly, and fatigue. Fatigue is also a human factor, because you know that quite clearly that you're tired and you still keep on driving. Then in that case, then definitely you are likely, your performance as a driver is going to diminish, including issues to do with not wearing a helmet. You know, when you're boarding border, which is not, for example, you don't put on a helmet, or the rider is not licensed, or actually not even undergone driver training or rider training to ride. So much of the things are largely behavioral, and we always talk about in excess of 85% of causation of road traffic crashes is behavioral in nature, because of the road user, whether you are a pedestrian, whether you are a driver, a passenger. Passengers not putting on a belt, in case of a crash, then it doesn't, you are likely to get injured, or probably even fatally injured. So that is it. We have a small contribution, not really small per se, but the other 15 or so is because of the vehicle, not maintaining your vehicle well. Even the fact that you don't maintain your vehicle well is also behavioral. It is your component. You know your vehicle is not...
It's still linked to the human component.
And you still, yeah, it is. And then there's also the road network, the infrastructure, although does contribute. We reckon that there are areas which have been classified as hazardous, as sections or black spots, and those are some of the areas which government works towards also trying to improve on the same, working with different stakeholders within government and outside government.
And looking at the fact that there are black spots.
Yes.
And we have always heard of black spots. We even have classifieds that are run on media, and especially during this season, to just remind people that these areas are black spots. Why aren't we addressing the fact that they are actually black spots, to avoid having them being a causative agent of more of these cases?
Yes, I'll tell you, the fact that a place is a black spot, that is one, but it is also for a crash to happen is a factor of many things. It's also the fact of the human, the behavior of the person. It does not mean that all black spots will cause all type of crashes involving all road users in that particular case. What I'm trying to say in other words is you realize that a black spot is because at times the place has, all areas have a potential of being a black spot. It's only at times the areas which are more, should I say, more black spot than others. But indeed, the human component around playing around that particular black spot also matters. For example, if you know that a particular area is a black spot, why would you be driving at excessive speeds and we posted limits that this is probably 30 kilometers zone or 50 kilometer zone, up to including warning you that you need to go slow and you don't need to overtake on this particular area. But you still find people overtaking. But that notwithstanding, government working with other road agencies or NTSA have worked towards improving some of these. One of the biggest areas which I'm sure you'll probably mention is the Salga area, which has been identified in the recent past to be a stretch which is hazardous in nature. But you've realized that there's an improvement in terms of treatment of that particular black spot by separating lanes, whereby the upgoing and downgoing traffic do not in any way come in contact or do not collide in any way. In that case, you realize, and I think this is one thing, if you see our data in the recent past, there have been dramatic, significant reduction in the number of crashes around that particular area. But that notwithstanding, the fact that there's a treatment of a black spot does not give you a guarantee that nothing is going to happen, because, as I said before, black spot is road related, but 80 to 90% of the crashes do happen in other areas, including pedestrians crossing on the wrong points, despite the fact that there's a provision of infrastructure to ensure that you are safe. People drinking and walking, drinking and riding, people overloading. We've had in the recent past some motorcycle carrying about 4 persons, and they all get crashed, and they died, about 4 or 5 of them in one of the areas here in I think central Kenya, something like that. So this is largely behavioral, because you cannot say that is because of a black spot, but you are already 5 in a motorcycle, riding on the wrong side of the road, drunk at night with no reflector jackets, with no helmets, and you get crashed and the 5 of you, or 4 or 5 of you die. That is tragic. But the story is, we need to tell Kenyans, this should not happen. Largely speaking, road traffic crashes are preventable. Largely preventable, and you can do something about it. And that's why there have been significant improvements in some other areas and in some other regions and in some other countries, because things and be done and can be done. But for us as a government, we are instituting measures to ensure that we work towards reducing these road traffic crashes, so that as we commemorate this day, we know that there's a reduction of fatalities in the country, or if
as
not
a
of a
result
particular
of
class.
accidents.
Yes.
Now, I want us to just talk a bit about this human component and look at the different aspects that come into play. And let's just start with the driver's training courses that we have here in our country. From where you sit, looking at the fact that, of course, before you get issued with your license, you have to go through a certain training courses, both theoretical and practical. But once you get your driver's license, you're set to go. The fact that there maybe aren't refresher courses, and more so looking at, because most accidents are usually as a result of PSVs, colliding with other PSVs, other trucks, and also personal vehicles. The fact that there aren't refresher courses as often that are required, do you think that could also be a problem leading to such poor behavioral and decision-making processes on the road?
Yes, you're right that the aspect to do with the training, testing and licensing of drivers is largely behavioral in nature, because it involves improving your capacity as a driver to ride or drive. Now, NTSA, working with partners in the recent past, have come up with a national curriculum for training of different categories of drivers, right from riders all the way to the bigger vehicles, the 22-wheelers and above.
Okay.
So that has been that is something which has not been there before. For a very long time, different driving schools use different standards of curriculum material to train their drivers. But we do have a current law which has just come and it's been gazetted in the recent past, early this year, and it has come into force. the whole idea, one, is to work towards the whole chain of driver training, testing, and licensing. So the first thing we've done is
allow me to just interject at that
yes.
point before you delve deeper into just helping us better understand this whole concept.
Yes.
We are supposed to take a very quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more of this discussion. If you have any questions in regards to how, training when it comes to driving courses are done here, the curriculum, that is what we are about to delve into. But first, let's take this break. We'll be right back with more of this particular discussion. Do stay with us.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Mbona unakaa uko disturbed?
Jana kuna msee alibreaking kwa kijana.
Oh my goodness. I can choose whoever I want to be my boyfriend. I'm old enough. Okay.
Wewe. Wanjala ni beshte yangu. Unatafuta nini? Biashara zangu na Wanjala. Ni biashara zangu na Wanjala. Guess ni nani niliona kwa mlango ya Wanjala akizurura hapo.
Who? He was not a perfect man, but he was not the evil person he was made out to be.
There are some things that you didn't know about Kay.
Relationship ina take time to grow. Sio kunimanipulate, kunifanya ni feel guilty.
Article 132 of the Constitution and House Standing Orders obligate the President of Kenya to address a joint sitting of the Houses on matters that touch on national values. The State of the Nation Address is an annual constitutional requirement where the President is accorded the opportunity to address the nation on all the measures taken and the progress achieved in the realization of the national values. President Uhuru Kenyatta has in the past delivered the address between March and May. Last year, he gave the address on April 4th, where he briefed the nation on the progress his administration had made towards realizing his legacy-defining projects. He also dwelt on the war on graft, as well as the Building Bridges initiative. He pointed out further that there will be no turning back on devolution, as it was the answer to unequal development. This year's address had been delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic. The first case of the virus was reported in the country in March. In this year's address, the head of state will likely take stock of the Big Four agenda. The president may also root for the Building Bridges initiative vehicle, which he believes will deliver equity and national unity. President Kenyatta will also report to Parliament the measures taken to achieve national values, progress in fulfillment of international obligations, and state of security. In their communication to the Houses, on Tuesday, Speaker Justin Muturi and his counterpart, Kenneth Lusaka, said the House attendance will be in compliance with the social distancing directives by the Health Ministry.
On KBC Channel 1.
The revival of Rivertex under President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda was a new dawn in the textiles manufacturing industry. This week on Project 254,
Hapa Rivertex nafanya kazi ya kutrim, kutoa uzi yenye itakani kwa nguo.
Tuko na uwezo wa kutoa kilo 3,000 kwenda 4,000 ya uzi, ikitegemea na kaunti ile tunarani.
Mimi hufurahia kutengeneza hizo miundo ambazo zinaenda kwenye shati za rais wetu.
Watch it on Thursday at 8:30 p.m.
Two lionesses struggle to cohabit.
Because I'm not going to stand here and be compared to some...
Hey, Nancy, don't try me.
As the coastal vacation brings Nancy and Joe closer.
Nancy, you are full of surprises. What would you like me to do for you this morning?
Or will it be?
Now, can you give us some space?
No. He? Unaona hii? Ni usherati.
Watch your mouth, Mother Teresa.
Or what?
This game that you and Nancy are playing.
Na nyinyi mmekuwa akina nani kuingilia mambo ya wazazi wenu?
Springed, making a comeback. Hotter.
Just gonna stand there and stare at us?
How do you think things will end up here?
This is a conversation between your father and I.
Sometimes it would be good if you would just stand your ground.
Wait, Mtoto, wait. What happens between me and Mama Paul is none of your business.
Bolder.
You know Mama Paul is leaving you.
So what?
What?
I'm done being your puppet and dancing to your tune and manipulation.
We called the clients and told them that the contract is down.
Only on KBC Channel 1. Fridays at 8:30 p.m. This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
We are being paid to show up to work from 8 to 5. Sometimes when that comes to an end, we are at a loss for words.
It is one of the most memorable periods of my life because when you travel, you engage with people of different cultures, you meet people of different personalities, and you learn a lot. But it never lasted for too long. We underwent a retrenchment experience from the Pride of Africa. So imagine you've been retrenched 6 or 7 months down the line. I had to shift houses. You are living hand to mouth. I tell them that your employer ain't your mommy or your daddy.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Mimi nikupe ushauri wangu kama kiongozi. Weka zile tofauti zako kando zote. Tuangalie mwananchi na faida ya mwananchi. Kwa sababu hata ukienda ukule, ukianza kumpinga, kutembea vijijini, ilhali miradi bado iko vile vile nusu, mingine haijafanyika, wewe tulia saa hii miradi afanye, akifanya na wewe ukienda kwa mwananchi utakuwa na wewe unalo la kusema.
Thank you for keeping it. Good morning, Kenya. My name is Jenombo. If you're just joining us, Karibu Tena Sana. We want to continue with the discussion that we are having right now in regards to matters road safety, and more so as we brace to celebrate the International Day of Remembrance coming this Sunday, the 15th of November. And with us in studio this morning, we have Dr. Duncan Kibogong, who is the Deputy Director in charge of Safety Programs and Public Education at NTSA. Thank you for still being with us. Now, before we took the break, we were just trying to understand the curriculum that is being put in place to just ensure that the lessons that are being offered to drivers, and most of those applying rather using PSVs, are as up to date, and of course looking at also the possibility of refresher courses. Please continue.
Yes, thanks. I was saying that the whole aspect about driver training and testing is very paramount, and indeed one of the most important pillars or areas or interventional areas when it comes to reducing road traffic fatalities, injuries and crashes in Kenya. And to that extent, the whole chain. We call it the whole chain, right from ensuring that you have the right curriculum for different categories of drivers, ensuring that you the driving schools you have they have the capacity to actually overtraining as part of the curriculum, then ensuring that the testing is done quite well, and then the licensing is done quite well. And then it goes further to ensure that the whole cycle of refresher training and renewal is tied up to refresher training and even medical assessment of the same. So we do have all that chain. As I said before, that for a very long time, Kenya did not have a standard curriculum for driver training. So much so that driving school A would teach differently from driving school B, and even the number of hours subjected in each of those modules would be different.
Totally different.
And in that case, what comes out is that you have an equal, or rather, you don't have standardized drivers, so to speak, in the market. And what we're saying as NTSA and as government is that we need to have a standard curriculum. And we have now come up with a standard curriculum of different categories of vehicles, different categories of drivers, and ensuring that in the same, we even put it into the practical training and the theory training. And we are going to subject also our drivers into theory training and theory testing. Okay. So the whole aspect is just like a normal training, whereby you put into class, you do the theory, and there even the number of hours is quite specified into it. For example, if you are doing a basic course, a basic training of some sort, it's 2 hours. So it's standard, and all driving school have to do those 2 hours. So you'll never go for a driver test until you finish those modules. Okay. The driving school have to certify that one boy, for example, has undergone the driving school curriculum, or rather training as per the curriculum, and therefore we over her, or rather we are registering her to be examined or to be tested by NTSM. Okay. So that is what you're doing currently. And the other part of it is that apart from just having the curriculum, is that we'll be ensuring that the driving school, and what is currently going on is that we are vetting driving schools to be in keeping and to be in keeping with the standard, because a school cannot be just a school when it's on top of a bar, for example, or it does not have a driver instructors, for example, who are certified. So there is a whole checklist. NTSA currently is undergoing, or driving schools are undergoing vetting, and for those ones who are not going to fulfill as per that particular regulation, then one thing is that they'll fall out. They'll have to close shop and then apply when they are in a position to fulfill those mandates. So that is what you're saying. Basically, we are weeding out driving schools who have not been doing exactly as per the law. And the current law is supporting us. We've not had this law for quite a while, but currently we have that particular law which is supporting the regulation, which is supporting us. Then 2, or rather 3, is the instructor training. We also have to have a standardized way of ensuring that instructor in driving school A is fairly or largely comparable to in another one and across the country. And that's why we also have a driving instructor curriculum as part and parcel of the larger curriculum, which we now subject, and then we are the ones going to license the drivers. So to speak, Wambo, is that we are working towards bringing this sector out and ensuring that in a proper regulatory framework and with proper standards in terms of curriculum, in terms of driving school standards, and further even the testing. Okay. And we're beginning to work towards automating the driver testing, so that when you go for a driver test, the theory part would be, to start with, is automated, so that because whenever most of the driving schools in the recent past is that you don't have standardized way of testing you, at least from a theory point of view. And so we're going to start the aspect of theory testing automated, and working further to have it even in the theory, the practical part. And now, with the licensing part, you all, I think, probably are aware, is that the government currently is rolling out a standard, a rather smart driver license, which has points in it. The whole idea is that we should be able to have that driving license, which is in keeping with international standards in terms of categories of drivers, and then on top of that, even to assist in future for purpose of enforcement, whereby you can lose a point and it's easily deducted from that particular driving license you are doing.
Looking at the
so we are working on the whole chain of driver training, testing, and licensing, and ensuring that we do not have loopholes. To that extent, we even noted that all these functions currently, majority of these were being done by different government agencies, but all that now has been shifted to NTSM.
Consolidated
so that
under
now
one umbrella.
we work it in once.
All right.
Including the refresher training, which you mentioned about.
Yes, because once you get your license, and especially if you are
Yes.
going to join the public service industry,
Yes.
And you don't get to have refresher courses, I mean, we're having different forms of cars, technologies keeping up with the times,
Absolutely.
but sticking to the old manual could prove to be a problem.
Yes.
Now, still looking at that human component and looking at the loopholes that lay therein, and this is something we were just talking about during the break,
Yes.
and more so coming from now the officials who have been put in place. The loopholes that are being exploited when it comes to the issuance of driving licenses. These days, and I'd like to believe you have heard of some of these cases, you don't need to go for training to get your driving license. You just need to know someone at the NTSA, at Huduma Center, someone who has connections to you being able to get a license. Just pay them, they get you a license. What is your organization doing to just try and avoid these situations? Because it is consequently leading to people who are not properly trained on the road and consequently resulting to accidents which could have been avoided.
Actually, I think the reverse is true. It may have been happening in the past because we were about 4 or 5 years old in market as NTSM. But currently, and I'll tell you this, it is one to get a driving license or even to vary the class of the license is very difficult. What we've done, and that is the whole essence about safety, and that's why we exist as an authority to support the Kenyan population to be safe on the road. We are saying currently you cannot get a driving license unless you go to a driving school. And not just a driving school, but a recognized, registered driving schools and licensed to operate as a driving school. When you go there, like you now, assuming that you'd want to have a license, you don't have a license. The requirement is you go to a driving school and then they register you as a driver and send your documentation to us that Jane Wamboy is registered under our driving school to undergo this particular category of driving for professional category A for motorcycles or category B for these particular vehicles. Then we will not, until the driving school, after they've trained you, or they'll have to send us the name thereafter that this as driving school A, we are sending this particular number of learners, or rather driver learners, to NTSA for testing. So you will never accept, the only place where a driving a name comes to NTSA for driver licensing is from a driving school saying that they've trained these particular people. One of the things we want to hold them also accountable on the people they are training. So much so that in the near future, if driving school A, we've noted that their drivers are considerably poor on some particular line, then a corrective measure can be done, including even delicensing that particular driving school.
Okay.
The whole idea is that as driving school, you take responsibility over the person you're handing over for testing to yourself. That is one aspect. The other check is that when after you've handed over that particular, saying that the following, I've underwent driver training in my driving school for these categories, and therefore I am ready, or rather they take responsibility over the training, then we subject them to tests. And currently, as I said, it is done by NTSA. We've just gotten that in the last 1 month, purely all driving tests. The mandate to do, the mandate has been there, but it was being handed over from the National Police. So currently, all driver tests is undertaken by NTSM. So I'll tell you, Wamboy, that increasingly the issue of people getting license from somewhere does not arise, at least not the legal license. People may want to fake it, but we have, the other thing we're also employing is technology. As you speak now, if you give your driving school, if you give me your license, you should be able to certify that are you in the government system. You may still have more or less similar looking, at least from a physical look, in terms of a license. But when it comes to checking the validity of that license, then the ultimate thing is to be able to check in the system from NTSA system to ensure that indeed this one is in the system and this is not. And that's why we are moving away from the old license to the new license, and we are automating the whole aspect around our records, including driving license records, amongst others.
All right.
So you can bet that the level of improvement has come and gonna get better as we move along.
Now, let's talk a bit about the response and emergency teams that are in play, because they're part of the chain that could just help in bringing down the number of deaths that we are seeing on the roads.
Yes.
How is the current state of your relationship as the National Transport and Safety Authority, as an organization, looking at the response teams, and this involves the police and, of course, the medical fraternity?
Yes, that is an area we are working with. It's and it is the whole aspect around emergency, what you call post-crash response. It is a whole pillar in the UN Decade of Action, whereby we, as much as possible, you try to prevent crashes from happening. But in case it happens, then you need to have a proper response to that from different stakeholders, right from when it happens all the way to the hospital. Now, we have a National Road Safety Action Plan, and part and parcel of that is to ensure that we have that collaborative effort together with other players. As we said, emergency response is largely, especially when it comes to the ambulance evacuation, is on the health sector, both of national government and county government.
Yes.
So that is an area we are working towards improving, but not just alone with the hospitals. We would want to improve, and working, of course, as in collaboration, that in case a crash happens, even the person next to you should be able to do the very basic of first aid, and even at least call the right ambulance. And that is the whole area which we are trying to collaborate with the medical fraternity to ensure that that border riders and drivers are trained, so that because they initially come towards working. And this is an area we are trying to work even with border sector amongst others, because even drivers, they are the first responders, so to speak, in case of a crash. At least they help stabilize, they help secure the scene, communicate, and that kind of thing.
Now, so is this part of the efforts that you are trying to bring in place with the new standardized curriculum when you're offering especially drivers who want to venture into the public transport system?
Absolutely. Part and parcel of the module in the curriculum is a whole section on first aid, which we feel it's adequate for them, and is offered by the driving school, and the driving school can get the services of a provider of that service in terms of emergency, like St. John's or Red Cross, who will teach these drivers on this particular aspect, so that when you come out, you are all-rounded. And as a matter of fact, this driving school curriculum is not just about driving. It talks about even the behavioral aspect, how you behave on the road, the customer care, among so many things which touches on this, on being a professional driver, so to speak.
Now, as we get to close this particular discussion, looking at the fact that this day is coming up this Sunday, the 15th of November, just trying to remember the victims of road accidents, those who have passed on, and those who are living with injuries that are long-term, or those who have been affected in one or the other. The objectives that as an organization you are planning for this year, and I'm also looking at this season that we are going into, given this is when we get to see the height of it all. Very briefly.
Yes, very briefly. I'll start with the World of Remembrance, which, as I said, is a global event commemorated and slated for the third Sunday every November. This year it falls on 15th of this particular November. But we are working at, so to speak, tough times across the globe. Within the, we have the global, the COVID-19 pandemic. So as responsible citizens, World of Remembrance was supposed to be done, or was supposed to have it in Kiambu. But following the directives from the government on what we call COVID-19 containing measures, the event, the actual physical event, is not going to happen. What I mean by physical event is that we are not going to congregate per se as a large crowd, because we want to also work towards reducing the transmission of and spread of the COVID-19. So in this particular case, we're going to have a number of activities online, or rather, which are going to ensure that at least they are in keeping with the government protocols, but two, that you're going to do it, including the particular discussion we are having currently here, and we look forward probably this Sunday also to be in air here to talk about the same. We're going to have virtual discussions, virtual World of Remembrance, the social media platforms, online platforms, and amongst others, including including if you have to have an event, then they have to be in keeping with those particular measures which have been put forth. So that is one. Two, as we work towards December, November, December into January, traditionally we've noted a high number of crashes and fatal injuries, largely because of people traveling and any other risk situations which goes with. And we call upon Kenyans to really remember that the fact that you are alive, you need to be careful, not just for yourself, but for every person, that you need to be safe driver, safe rider, safe passenger, and work towards improving road safety in Kenya for our own safety and for
the safety of those around us. All right. Thank you so much. Remember, we have been just trying to pay attention on the forthcoming 25th edition of the World Day of Remembrance of Road Traffic Victims, which is celebrated every third Sunday of November every year. Just trying to remember those who have died on our roads, those who are living with injuries, and those who have lost loved ones or affected in one way or the other as a result of road accidents. And we have been speaking with Dr. Duncan Kibogong, who is the Deputy Director and in charge of safety programs and public education at the National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA, just to remind us that we need to do better when it comes to how we carry ourselves on the roads, given the human component contributes to the larger percentage of these accidents that we are seeing on the roads. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Maybe you could give us the social media handles so that our viewers can also keep interacting with the NTSA on these platforms. Any questions, you can be able to also address them from that.
You should be able to get the social media. I don't have with me here, but I should be able to avail the same.
All right.
Yes.
So I believe if you just look up NTSA, you'll be able to find them across the social media platforms. Get to interact with them and understand, and more so looking at this new curriculum that is being put forth when it comes to the training aspect of drivers, especially if you're looking to venture into the public transport employment world. So that is that in regards to this discussion. We have so much more coming up, and more so looking at what will be happening today. So coming up next.
yote ndawai do iko tu sawa kwa macho yako.
Unataka kuwako? Ati nini? Why are you people shouting?
Are you okay?
Mwanamke ninakuona sana. Ni wanaume hapa Mombasa wameisha.
Ni nini mbaya?
Nowadays we have so many unfaithful people.
What?
We need to talk about her every time we are together.
I'd be very careful the way you address me.
Zako zinakuangaje? Huwezi kaa dakika mbili hata bila kuteta.
You will all sign new contracts.
And I am supposed to be briefed.
What? Taki ujinga.
Oof.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
The revival of Rivertex under President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda was a new dawn in the textiles manufacturing industry. this week on Project 254.
Hapa Rivertex nafanya kazi ya kutrim, kutoa uzi yenye itakani kwa nguo.
Tuko na uwezo wa kutoa kilo 3,000 kwenda 4,000 ya uzi ikitegemea na kaunti ile tunarani.
Mimi hufurahia kutengeneza hizo miundo ambazo zinaenda kwenye shati za rais wetu.
Watch it on Thursday at 8:30 p.m.
On the next episode of
Mimi sioni faida ya kuishi mama. Hebu mama niambie ukweli, kwa nini ulikuja na mimi kwenye hii nyumba? Kwa nini baba hanipendi?
Sitafikia maneno hayo.
Nimesema ondoka bwana. Amka. Ondoka hapa. Inuka ukakae kule. Nini wewe?
Ni kweli. Jamaa mpigo miaka 10 gerezani, alafu wajua mpigo fanya hizi milioni 3.
two lionesses struggle to cohabit.
Because I'm not going to stand here and be compared to some...
Hey, Nancy, don't try me.
As the coastal vacation brings Nancy and Joe closer.
Nancy, you are full of surprises. What would you like me to do for you this morning?
Or will it be?
Now, can you give us some space?
No. He? Ni usherati.
Watch your mouth, Mother Teresa.
Or what?
This game that you and Nancy are playing.
Na nyinyi mmekuwa akina nani kuingilia mambo ya wazazi wenu?
Stringed, making a comeback. Hotter.
Just gonna stand there and stare at us?
How do you think things will end up here?
This is a conversation between your father and I.
Sometimes it would be good if you would just stand your ground.
Wait, Mtoto, wait. What happens between me and Mama Paul is none of your business.
Bolder.
You know Mama Paul is leaving you.
So what?
What?
I'm done being your puppet and dancing to your tune and manipulation.
We called the clients and told them that the court has shut us down.
Only on KBC Channel 1. Fridays at 8:30 p.m. This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Wow! Congratulations, Atito. You know, I've always wanted to put on nanga, put on makeup. You know, things like those.
Very good thing. Atito, my friend. I thought you'll never find love after that, Joanne. Please leave the bear out of this.
Okay, now I get this. You are married and you still have unresolved issues.
Julia, leave me alone, okay? Laugh if you must. Laugh, eh? Ato kitaka kupiga duru, piga. Just don't let me see a fool in front of me.
Inyanju, you said I'm laughing. Okay, you people are so unfair.
Why does everybody think that I do not care what happened to you guys?
Guess who the celebrity is? Atito.
Not yet, teacher.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Good morning indeed. We are all waiting for President Uhuru Kenyatta's State of the Address this afternoon, where KBC Channel 1 is going to be bringing you those live proceedings. Remember, this is going to be a unique State of the Address because of the COVID health protocols that will require, rather have seen the number of MPs that are going to be attending this reduced to 114. But now, before we get to discuss matters of the State of the Address, I'd want to introduce my guest, or rather my participants as well as other guests. Remember, we are live and we call for your feedback. Our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1 News. Mine is at Ray Manyara, at Jane Wamboy, and now we cross over to Doreen.
All right, thank you very much, Regina. And right now we are live from Jivanji Gardens. So we just want to speak to civil rights activists under the Bunge la Wananchi. Remember that this afternoon we are expecting the State of the Nation address from the President, where he's charged to give that address every year. So this is going to be his 7th State of the Nation address. His first was in 2014, just after he had taken office. That was in 2013. So his first was in 2014. Oftentimes, this address normally happens between the months of March and May. The last year one took place in April 4th, and obviously this year's one was also expected to happen around the same time, but due to the adverse effects of COVID-19, that was pushed further, and hence the reason as to why it will be happening today at around afternoon thereabouts. So quite a number of issues were addressed last year. Key among them include matters to do with corruption. There was a bit of devolution there, BBI, amongst many other things. So this year, what are some of the things that Kenyans expect their president to address, and why just those specific issues? And that is why this morning we'll be having that conversation with this senior members of Civil Rights Association here in Kenya, also under the Bunge la Wananchi, to tell us just their expectations, what it is they expect the president to address, and specifically why those issues. And I just want to start with you, Mr. Koech. You just tell us a bit about, the body you represent, what exactly it does, before we embark on what it is we expect the president to address this afternoon.
So thank you very much. My name is Koech David. We are as senior human rights activists from both Bunge la Wananchi and concerned citizens are actually focused on agitating for human rights in this country and concerning various human activities and life in this country. So our expectation as per the State of the Nation address, as per today's presidential address, is based on a number of issues. Number one is we expect the president to roll out a stimulus program as far as COVID recovery is concerned. Remember, very many citizens in this country are living in a devastated status created by the COVID pandemic and job losses because of this pandemic. So we expect the president to roll out a stimulus program to empower these people. That is number one. Number two, there are two ministries that are in a mess in this country today. We expect the president to focus on the Ministry of Education. Education in this country, nobody has confidence, nobody knows about what is going to happen the next day, the following day in education in this country. Today, as we speak, the Ministry of Health is overwhelmed. COVID-19 is becoming a different dynamic and a kind of disease that we never anticipated. So we expect the president to roll out a new strategy on how to deal with COVID-19. Thank you very much.
Well, quite a raft of issues there presented by Mr. Koech there. So what about you? What is it that you expect the president to address, and specifically why those issues?
My name is George Bush, and I'm also a member of Consolidation Alliance. I think we expect very serious and blunt admissions from the president today. One, the country is receding into obscurity, state of obscurity. The country is limping into oblivion. Look at the management of COVID-19 in this country. We are registering the highest number of cases in East and Central Africa. Look at the minister in charge of health yesterday. He dismissed the COVID-19 vaccine, despite the fact that the vaccine is applauded across the world as a positive achievement. He dismissed it and said that the COVID-19 is here to stay for the next 3 years. Kenyans are devastated, and we are saying that the president needs to roll out a clear strategy to curb the rising cases. We are tired of curfews and lockdowns. It can be done differently. Number two, we expect the president to make a clear admission today, a blunt admission, that his administration has lost the battle or the war on graft. Because we saw KEMSA files, despite the fact that the president gave 21 days for the files to be, for the investigation to be concluded and people to be arraigned in court, those who are found culpable to be arraigned in court. We are talking about 2 months now. Nobody has ever been arraigned in court. The conversation around the KEMSA scandal has been muted in the country. That is another admission that we expect the president to make. Number three, we have looked at the number of people being arrested for violating COVID-19 protocols. They are taken to police cells. There is overcrowding in the cells. In the prisons, they are overcrowding. That means you are taking somebody from the community, you take him to a more dangerous place, because the policemen are not even trained on how to manage COVID-19 in those police cells. Look at schools. schools are now closing because of the rising cases of COVID-19 in school. Now, assuming that the schools that have closed and the students came back home, will they also be expected to take the same examinations that others that are remaining in school will take? Now, those are serious, blunt admissions that we expect the president to make. And as civil rights organization, we know that Uhuru Kenyatta is a very reasonable man. And given that he has lost control of the government, he's probably going to it's probably, and I expect Uhuru Kenyatta, he might announce his resignation today because he has lost control of the government. Clearly, if you see the way the BBI discussion debate, the political rhetoric is higher today than it was in 2007 election. So probably the president will announce his resignation today. He's a reasonable man, and we are expecting him to announce his resignation today, and we are waiting. We'll be looking out on that clearly as civil rights activists in the country.
Okay, and just to put a disclaimer, these are the Kenyans' views concerning what they expect the president to address. It does not in any way represent the Broadcasting House views. Now, coming to you, Oyugis, they have mentioned quite a number of issues. There's matters to do with BBI, there's corruption, there's health, there's education. What is your expectation as the chairman, especially of this committee?
Thank you very much. My name is activist Lavio Yugi. I'm the CEO of Concerned Citizen Alliance and also the head of security, Bunge la Wananchi, Kenya. First and foremost, I want to tell Mr. President, before he addresses the nation, he must come out clearly and tell the Kenyans issue about our soldiers in Somalia. We are not going to hide this. Everybody is aware that we sent some of our soldiers in Somalia. We are having problem in our borders with the Somalia, and nothing has done about that. Rais hajakuja akatuambia wale wanajeshi wetu walikuwa pale, wale wamekufa ni wangapi na wangapi wamekuwa compensated na familia yao wameangaliliwa namna gani. Ya pili, ile kitu mimi kama mwanaharakati wa nchi ningependa kuambia rais aweze kueleza wananchi ni maneno ya hii BBI. Hii akili wamekuja naye na ndugu yake Raila Amolo Odinga ya kusema tulipe watu wa opposition. Hii proposal yao, tukilipa watu wa opposition, nani ataangalia serikali? Kila mtu akikuwa analipo. Tafadhali tunaomba kama Wakenya murudi kwa board, mtoe hiyo maneno ya kulipa opposition, naye Wakenya watakuwa pamoja na hiyo kitabu. Ya pili, tunataka kuongea maneno ya hii COVID-19. Tumeona kama imewekwa kama ya biashara. Sasa mpaka kanjo, mpaka ile askari ya jela wameweka hii kama biashara. Rais, tafadhali tangazia wananchi msimamo ya kwamba hii mtu akibreak rule ya COVID inafaa shikwe na askari gani na ni sheria gani ameharibu ndio ashikwe. Si ati watu wakujiwe tu wasanywe wawekwe ndio watoinishwe pesa. Ya mwisho, ningependa kuambia rais maneno ya elimu. Wazazi wamechoka. Sasa ni wakati wako ujitokeze usaidie wazazi. Wazazi wametuma watoto shuleni. Tafadhali tumia mbinu ya Ministry ya Education, make sure vitu kama hii barakoa nimeweka imeingia kwa shule free of charge. Sanitation ingie kwa walimu, ndio naye tubambane na hii maneno ya COVID. Tukiwaachia wazazi mzigo ya kwamba lazima waangalie watoto wao wanunulie hizi mabarakoa, tutaongeza hii ugonjwa. Na wewe mwenyewe unaona vile hii ugonjwa imerudisha uchumi ya Kenya nchi. Sisi kama wananchi wa Kenya bado tuko na hii nchi na tutakuacha, na tunajua wewe ni rais ambaye akona akili tamamu. Tafadhali endesha nchi vile baba yako alikuwa ameendesha, na tutakuwa na imani na wewe. Asante.
All right, now coming to the last person, what is your expectation and why would you expect the president to address whatever it is you think is your expectation this afternoon?
Okay, majina yangu ni Elvis Mutuku na mimi ni treasurer wa Concerned Citizen Kenya. Na mimi ningemuomba rais kwamba katika address yake leo asimame kama rais, afunje hii komiti ya BBI. The handshake yenye tulikuwa tunaomba Kenya hii ilikuwa ya kuleta wa Kenya pamoja. Lakini tangu hiyo ripoti itolewe, tumeona wafungaji wa MP wametoa ripoti, makanisa wametoa ripoti, leaders wengine wametengwa. Sisi tunamuomba rais asimame wima leo, afunje hii komiti na turudi serikali ifanye kazi yenye ilikuwa imechaguliwa ifanye, the big four agendas, na opposition ifanye kazi yake, kwa sababu hii imeleta sasa mgawanyiko zaidi Kenya hii, na tuwezi kubali sisi kama activist wa nchi iendelee na kugawanywa ni politician tukiwa katika Kenya yetu. Ya pili, tunamuuliza Waziri Kagwe, kuna hii task force yenye CEO ameongea kuhusu wale wanahusika katika kuhakikisha sheria zenye zimewekwa za COVID zimefuatiliwa Kenya mzima. Mr. Kagwe, ni lini uliona kanjo ikitumika kushika mwananchi apelekwe kotini? Ni lini uliona mtu mwenye hata hatujui ni polisi ama ni kanjo anashika mtu na anamwambia toa 500 hapa Nairobi, alafu anamwambia wewe nimekushikia juu ya barakoa, kumbe anawaingiza kwa gari moja watu karibu 1200? Mheshimiwa Kagwe, tengeneza kikundi ya kutrain polisi wenye watakuwa nando wa Kenya wenye wajavaa barakoa, wenye wamechelewa juu ya curfew, au ndio atakisha kwamba corona haisambai Kenya hii. We have an issue with that and it must be taken at a serious note. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So these are some of the views from Kenyans here. You know, the members, the chairperson, the secretary, the treasurer of the Civil Rights Association of Kenya under the Bungela, which is the body of the Bungela Wananchi, just giving us their views concerning what they think and what they feel the president should address this afternoon. Key among them matters to do with corruption still featuring in BBI, matters to do again with COVID-19, amongst many other issues. But again, we just continue to keep tabs with them, keep conversing with them to tell us more of what it is they expect and the reason as to why they expect the president to address whatever they think they need the president to address this afternoon. Ray.
Thank you very much, Doreen. Thank you for keeping up to date with what is happening. Bungela Mwananchi there, they have already shared their views, as you've said, issues of a stimulus program, post-COVID, health concerns, war on graft, congestion in prison, that and so much more. Remember, you too can also join in the conversation. We are live and we welcome your feedback. What are your expectations as the president is to give the State of the Nation speech this afternoon? What are your expectations? Get tweeting at our Twitter handle at KBC Channel 1 News, at Ray Manyara, at Doreen Arange, and at Jane Wamboi. Now, in his opening speech, or his opening remark on April 4th, 2019, President Uhuru Kenyatta said this: the state of our nation is strong. Is it? Are you on? Introducing my guest this morning to just give his expectation and view of what the president should prioritize. Good morning, Timothy Ekesa. How are you?
Good morning to you, Regina.
Good to have you on board. Now, ahead of the president's speech this afternoon, what would you want him to prioritize?
I think the president is like a father, is actually a father of the nation. And like a father in every home, when you hear the father is coming back after 1 year, there are a lot of expectations. And I've been listening into what the Bunga la Mwananchi has been saying. I think every sector, every child here has got their own expectation from the president. As from the children's sector, I think we're very clear that we are expecting the president to speak about this forgotten community called the children. I know that this year has been a very difficult year, maybe from the last year when he made his speech. Because of COVID, schools have been closed close to 8 months, 6, 7 months. And we know right now there's partial opening. I know many parents and many people in the children's sector, we are asking ourselves, we need the president to at least pass a message to the children, those who are at home and the who are in school, and just assure them that the country really still cares about them, because it's the role of the government to ensure that the children get education and get taken care of. So that's actually our expectation, that we need him to at least speak to the children for the first time.
Mm-hmm. So you want him to address issues and talk to the children directly. So what recommendations would you give in light of the current situation that we find ourselves in, focusing on the education sector that you represent and also the children's sector that you represent, Mr. Timothy?
One thing that has happened from March when when this started, is we've always been crying out to say, can we let the head of state address some children? I know he has done quite a lot, trying to make things with the Minister of Education to see things, how they can be able to work, but we've not specifically spoken to the children. This is the first time in the history of life of children in this country where they have been at home for 7 months. We don't know what they are doing at home. And I know there are many plans the government has, but I think it's important that they become part and parcel of the plan rather than just being passive hearers or just hearing things from second hand, from their parents, from the teachers. I think we need a clear plan for them and a clear assurance that come January, as he promised in his address last time, children will actually be in school and that all has been put in place to ensure that they'll continue their education despite the pandemic that is ongoing.
Mm-hmm. We know that the president is bound by law to give this particular address. From where you sit, Timothy Ekesa, as a director of COC that deals with issues and rights advocacy in as far as children's rights are concerned, looking at the law, the judiciary, we've heard there from the Bunge la Mwananchi, they're citing that there's a slow judicial process when it comes to laws, to protect the children. What inroads have been made in this time between last year and now, and what do you think needs to be done to ensure that, children's rights are upheld?
I want to say that implementation, Kenya, we have very nice laws. We pass very nice laws. But I think when it comes to implementation, it's a very big problem. For example, we've actually been asking the government to assent to the second option of protocol on the CRC, which is on the sale and trafficking of children. It is something that the government has not assented to it since, 2007. So we've been asking the government so that we can also be able to curb the whole issue of violence against children. We also know that the Children's Act review started in 2006. That law actually is not been reviewed up to now. It is still a draft as we speak. So there's been some slow when it comes to implementation of laws, and we needed it. It was one of the laws that should have amended within 5 years when the Constitution 2010 was implemented. But I think it is still way far. So we are saying that this been the movement of judiciary has been a bit slow, and that has impacted on the life of children, that has impacted on implementation of some policies, and that has even impacted on the funding that we need for the children's sector, which comes from development partners to support the government work that is going on. So I think, to me, I wish we could be able to conclude some things and move on. We are coming up with so many new things. We are coming up with a lot of reviews, but we are forgetting the reviews that started as far back as 2006.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Timothy Ekesa is Executive Director of CAC, weighing in on our conversation this morning. Now we shift gears and focus on matters politics. Introducing my guest, he's a political analyst, Mr. Manyasi. Good morning, Manyasi. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Good morning to you.
Great to have you on board. Now, ahead of the State of the Nation address by President Uhuru Kenyatta, what are your expectations?
Yeah, of course, one of the running call the president is going to make is just like we've had in the recent past, he's going to talk about uniting Kenyans a bit more and more. And by doing that, he will also end up speaking about the BBI. And of course, he will be talking about my expectation that he should be talking about his legacy as well, talking about the plans that he has for the next just less than 2 years. I'm not sure how he's supposed to manage the 2 years that are remaining, but he will definitely talk about his aspirations to leave Kenya as a united country. But beyond that, of course, there are really political undertones all over the place about what BBI means and what Kenyans should expect from the same. From my end, we can also already see opposing camps talking about not even wanting to go and listen to his speech. But I guess, as you mentioned earlier, by law, the president is supposed to give this State of the Nation address. Secondly, I also, even though it's not a political issue, but you will expect him to talk about the issue of COVID. I really hope that he can also speak to issues of corruption, because that is part of what has been ailing this country. I really have wished that he speaks to our date, which I do not think that he will speak to, but I would have hoped that he speaks to that. And then, of course, back into the BBI issue, there are so many contentious issues within the document. So probably, even though he has been meeting sections of Parliament, but it will be, since he's addressing the National Assembly and the Senate, so he should address Parliament on what his vision is on the BBI process, so that ultimately then he tells the country whether those who are saying they need to revisit the document, whether that is even possible or not. He needs to say that, so that Kenya moves to the next stage, knowing that the document cannot be relooked into, and therefore what does the future portend for that document. So those are the major issues that I will expect the president to dwell on. And of course, lastly, he is likely to focus on speaking about the youth. It's turning out that the youth of this country, the realization that they are a big deal, and so speaking to what is expected of them, or what is expected to be done for them, is going to be something that will be spoken to for a while between now and the next election.
Mm-hmm. Now, Alex, you've mentioned about, there being different factions appearing, or rather attending this particular address. Do you see in these 114 seats that are going to be occupied this afternoon, are we likely to see a showdown of sorts, or rather a tyranny of numbers, as you see a show of might with a pro-Uhuru or pro-DP? What are we expecting there in terms of the constitution of the members we're expecting to actually attend this address?
If I hear you properly, so I would not be. I say so because it's simply not necessary. It's not something that we want to see happening in Parliament. It's a requirement by law for the president to give his State of the Nation address, and therefore the expectation is that there will be time for Parliament to debate the speech, and therefore it's necessary at this point in time to either interrupt or try to heckle the president in the process. So I do not expect that to happen, simply because the opposing camp might not have the requisite noise, maybe, to actually just do that. So I do not expect that to happen.
Thank you very much. That is Alex Manyasi, who is a political analyst, giving his expectations ahead of President Uhuru Kenyatta's State of the Nation address this afternoon. Introducing my next guest, Mr. Hamisi Boga. Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. Good morning. Good morning, Regina. How are you doing?
I'm well. Yourself?
Fine. How is Nairobi? I'm told you are experiencing cold spell there.
Oh, yes. Unlike Mombasa, I'm sure.
Come, all of you, come. Take the SGR.
Yes, we will. Now, what are your expectations ahead of the president's speech this afternoon?
As I sit here and as I wait this afternoon for the input from the president, I have 4 big issues. The BBI is still a very hot cake, and it must be talked about. He must give us some way forward in terms of what is the next step. For example, I find it very difficult to open up the discussion again for the input. Can't it be done through Parliament, through policies? Those issues that are coming now, have they got to be in the report, or can they be uploaded? Because some of the issues are going to Parliament. For example, he's going to talk to Parliament this afternoon. Can't he place that burden to Parliament? Because we have representatives in Parliament to look at all those issues that the public is talking about. So if I was to make a suggestion, let him give that back to Parliament and we move forward. But we want to hear what he says about that. And given that direction, the other big issue is the COVID-19. It has demolished all of us. It has removed the employment. It has put some scare into old people like me. I'm now old here until I'm told that there's no corona anymore. this is very stressful. What is the way forward? When are we going to get the immunity injection so that we can be able to work on our way? The other area, very, very important, is the economic aspect of our country. All this, the big COVID-19 has really affected everything, including the economic way of life of Kenya. Even to marketing, even to go to Kongoya market or Marikiti, you see a change. But at the same time, I'm learning quite a lot of things about the new COVID. It has created new opportunities. So I want to hear what are these new opportunities that have come with this burden of pandemic. Every bad side of the coin has a good side. So can we open up so that we can be able to use the same pandemic and turn it around, especially if we get the dower for all of us to survive? The other area is the youth. This issue, I know it started from the discussion, political discussion, but can we address it properly? I think it has been addressed. Can you highlight what the government has done for the youth and what is the government planning for the youth? Because if it doesn't, people will use it to be able to drum support for political ends. What have we done? I mean, I'm looking at a standard, a setup. This is what has the government done, and this is what is planning to do. I think that will put down the country. The last area that I think, there are many, but the last area is corruption, because the economic aspect has been affected by corruption. And we have seen a report being presented to him. Let him give us a direction. Take a quick action for some of those guys who are taking a lot of money, so that money can come back into the system and circulate. So these are some of the areas that we think we should be able to hear from the president this afternoon, and then give us hope. You know, leading is to guide people. If we despair that COVID will kill us, the economy will kill us, and these other things will affect us, we are in trouble. So we need some guidance and also hope. Those are the issues that I think the president should be able to tackle this afternoon, and focus on parliament. They should not beat around the bush. Let them look at all the laws, the policies and activities, and then budgeting. I hear we're increasing numbers. You can increase the number, but look at how can you implement the financial aspect of those numbers. And then we get it. The moment we budget, we know how much we require, then you can be able to look for the money to do that. And then you can scale down, scale up or down. This is a matter of planning and policy. I think if we get it from him and guiding the parliament and all of us, things can move on.
Thank you very much, Hamisi Boga, there for your input in regard to your expectations ahead of President's State of the Nation address this afternoon. Do not go away. We'll still be tackling on issues, especially now bringing in the issue of BBI, devolution, as well as corruption. Introducing my next guest, live from Embu County. This is none other than Dr. Joan Mwende. Good morning, Daktari.
Good morning, Regina. How are you?
Good. It seems the picture quality is a bit questionable. We'll come back we'll try to get you better, maybe get a place which is well lit so that we can see you properly. Now, from what we have had from across a section of Kenyans here, is what is likely to take center stage this afternoon as the president gives this year's State of the Nation address is matters of BBI, as well as COVID-19 crisis. Kenyans are also expecting to hear, an update on the milestones that in the fight against corruption, because the president was issued with a report on Monday by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. So we'll be keenly focusing on matters of corruption. We're waiting to hear that. Remember, this is going to be a unique speech or State of the Nation address under the COVID-19 safety guidelines there, where only 114 members of parliament are going to be sitting in during this address, where 88 seats are set aside for members of parliament within the National Assembly, and the rest are on come first, come served basis there. Remember, also what is unique is that there'll be no reception after the address. That will be coming up and so much more. Remember, we are live and we welcome your feedback. And talking about feedback, how about we hear and see? Let's introduce our guest. But before we get to our next guest, Jane, I don't know what we have on social media in as far as Kenyans' expectations ahead of the President's State of the Nation address.
Let me just get straight to it. Remember, the hashtag that is trending in regards to this particular broadcasting is the State of the Nation address, as well as hashtag Good Morning Kenya. Let me just read for you some of the tweets that we have received so far in regards to expectations about State of the Nation address that will be happening at 2 p.m. Later on in the day. Captain Keep Courier saying, we are waiting for the State of the Nation address by President Uhuru Kenyatta. We need solutions and not suggestions. All right? We have Honorable Aisha Juma, MP from Malindi, who has actually put out her tweets, and she says, as we anxiously wait for State of the Nation address by President Uhuru Kenyatta today, Kenyans want a clear roadmap to economic recovery and clear policy guidelines in the fight against COVID-19. That is what Honorable Aisha Juma had to say in regards to that. We move on to another tweet by one Jaloka, who says President Kenyatta is set to send a serious warning to all corrupt government officials during his annual State of the Nation address later on today. Any corrupt government official shall meet the full force of the president's speech writers today. Again, these are some of the expectations that people are putting out on social media in regards to what they're hoping the president will address today. This is a tweet by one person who calls themselves Too Young to Retire, saying has actually put out a number of issues. And number one, President Kenyatta to address, he says, President Kenyatta, we demand KEMSA thieves to be arrested and COVID-19 money recovered. Number two, NHIF is an insult to poor Kenyans' efforts to cover themselves. Number three, CS Mutahi Kagwe and CS Magoha to be fired. Number four is BBI report Raila's or Kenya's document. A consensus in regards to that. We have another tweet by one Anajita Samak Musumba there on your screen, who says, are the four agendas set by the government still on track? Hashtag State of the Nation, which way for Kenya? Looking in regards to what the state of the Big Four agenda is as of now. We have Sangetich here who says, let me just center that for you. I think we over-expect from the government. Today, I decide to not expect anything from State of the Nation address. Let me focus on paying taxes faithfully to finance the government, which has chosen to ignore the pandemic and focus on constitutional reforms. It is what it is. One final tweet. That is what we have so far. Remember, State of the Nation address will be happening later on in the day, so we welcome your expectations. We will continue to sample them as they come in, so keep sending them in using the hashtag State of the Nation as well as hashtag Good Morning Kenya.
Indeed, Jane, I heard there from that Twitter handle there, Silas Ngetich, saying that he has no expectations ahead of President Uhuru Kenyatta's State of the Nation address. Let's keep finding out what is your take in regard to that particular speech this afternoon. Introducing my next guest this morning, joining us live from Embu County, is none other than Dr. Joan Monde. Good morning once again, Daktari.
Good morning, Regina.
Much better. The picture quality is much better. Now, all eyes are on President Uhuru Kenyatta this afternoon. From where you sit, what are your expectations?
Thank you, Regina. One, I expect the president to address the plight of women in this country. I am a very, very disappointed woman in Kenya, looking at how people have taken BBI and how they have criticized and how they are feeling like women should not get the mat space that BBI is recommending. And my concern is that women are the majority in this country. Women have acquired education like everybody else. The men make it difficult for us to ascend to those positions that they are in. And at the same time, they would not want us anywhere close. And yet we vote and we vote and we vote. Women are the carriers of the nation, if you ask me. Women are the ones carrying the burden. Under COVID, women have borne the brunt of the pandemic. And right now, children who are at home, I can bet you they are the burden of the women. And therefore, I expect that His Excellency, the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, will address the plight of women. Secondly, I expect that the President will address the plight of children. Education has not been happening. Most of the children, majority of children are at home. Considering that it's only class 4, class 8, and Form 4 students that are home, that are in school, the majority of children are at home. And here we are with parents who are ill-equipped, majority of them ill-equipped for parenting, and especially because they're used to having children in school most of the time. Now we're having children at home most of the time. At least for the better part of this year, children have been at home. I expect that the President, His Excellency, will look into the matters of parenting. Our parents have a huge burden. They need support. They need help, even for many of them to understand how to parent. And therefore, through the Ministry of Education, I am expecting that His Excellency the President will even come back to the CBL that was trashed. There was this discussion about community-based learning. Under the Basic Education Act, we have promised as a country that we shall give children education. That does not necessarily have to happen in school, within the community. What is it that we can do? We have left our children. I also expect that, like my friend Tim said, that His Excellency will remember that children form a big majority, that children also need to be involved. I think all these discussions around, do we open, do we close, do we shut down, do we, whatever, all these discussions around the pandemic have left out children. I do not remember any convening that asked children what their wishes were. What would you like to be done for you while at home? How would you like the spaces at home to be managed? How would you like education or learning to happen while you're at home? And what we have done as adults is to just continue discussing over the heads of children and sending it or pushing it back to them. I expect that there will be a special focus for children, and particularly because of the pandemic. I also expect that His Excellency will address the plight of the pregnant girls, those teenage girls that was so well broadcasted, that everybody talked so loudly about, thousands of them. And I remember seeing the data, the statistics from across the counties, and now it looks like all that is gone. Everybody's quiet. We are focusing on something very different. I expect a part of the focus of His Excellency, the President, will be on the plan. How do we go forward from here? Some of them will be delivering shortly. Others will be delivering before exams. Others will be, they are in various stages of pregnancy. And I guess, I bet you more are still getting pregnant as we are talking, because I haven't seen any robust activities or initiatives towards preventing further pregnancy. So that is part of my concern or part of my interest. But then finally, under the Big Four agenda, the first one is food security. I expect that His Excellency will also focus back on the involvement of youth in agriculture. I have heard many times people say that youth don't want to be involved in digging soils, they don't want to be involved in touching, dirt. which goes with agriculture. They would rather do e-agriculture. And I keep saying there's no food that grows in air. I know there's...
Indeed,
Yes.
we take you up on that. Yes, there's no food that grows on air. But one of the trending kind of forms of agriculture that we've observed, especially during this COVID-19 season, is that people in peri-urban areas have taken to what they term as vertical agriculture, where you're planting, having your kitchen garden in a balcony, such and such. But now we're not talking about agriculture. We're focusing on our expectations of the president this afternoon.
Yes.
Now, Daktari, before I let you go, we understand you're the CC of Tourism in Embu County, and there's been a lot of conversation around, counties and devolution and the BBI. As a woman and as a leader, what is your take in regard to, provisions that have been made within the BBI and as far as women in leadership is concerned?
I think they're very good proposals, particularly for women. And like I said earlier, my biggest concern is the heat that is coming from those proposals, the heat that is coming or arising from those proposals from people who feel like women are being accorded too much space. And I would like to say here that women should be accorded a lot of space because they are also many. They are the majority. Like I said earlier, women carry the burden. They carry a huge burden for the nation. Sorry, I forgot to speak about mental health issues. Allow me to speak just slightly about mental health issues, being the immediate former health minister or county minister for Embu. A lot of people now are beginning to experience stress, depression, whatever, because of COVID. And I think it would be a good chance for His Excellency, the President, to speak to mental health issues and take specific initiatives to address mental health. As women, we are also very prone to mental health issues, although we bear them very bravely. But then, back to your question on BBI, yes, proposals that have been made are super for women, and we're looking forward to greater conversations around that. And I'm not in any way campaigning for either party. I'm talking about...
Thank you very much, Dr. there. I'll go with that statement that women need a space in leadership because we are a majority. We'll be keeping tabs on other Kenyans' expectations ahead of the President's State of the Nation address that is set to happen this afternoon at 2 p.m. Remember, he's going to be meeting members of parliament both at the National Assembly as well as the Senate. The number is 114. Owing to the COVID-19 health protocols, 88 seats will be reserved for members of parliament within the National Assembly, while the rest is open to senators on a first come, first served basis. We'll be keenly watching exactly what is going to transpire in Parliament, and borrowing from what our political analyst Alex Manyasi said is that Kenyans do not want to see a divided state this afternoon. No heckling of the president, because this is something that is entrenched in the law, and the president has to do it each and every year, actually beginning of the year, but with the COVID-19 situation, we are doing it in November. My next guest, Joshua Ondimu, who is our teacher. Thank you very much, sir. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Regina. Thank you for having me.
Tell us where you're live from and what are your expectations ahead of the president's speech this afternoon.
I am live from Nairobi, a place called Saika. Now, today's State of the Nation address, I'm really pessimistic about the president's speech. Previously, we've seen him give various directions that did not materialize. But as far as the education sector is concerned, I'm pessimistic because the government have had quite a long time to implement some of the basics in schools to protect the children, to protect the teachers. That hasn't happened. Right now, you've seen that there is a spike of infections in various schools, and the government strategy is a bit questionable. Yesterday, there was a bombshell that NHIF will not be taking care of those who have contracted this particular disease. Therefore, Kenyans are on their own. And there is quite a lot that could be handled in the education sector. Number one, you're talking about there are some teachers who are above 50 years who are vulnerable with conditions. Some of those teachers were not asked to pull out. Some of them are teaching. This week, we've lost a certain teacher from my home county at Bururu Girls to COVID-19. So more teachers ought to have been employed, retired the old ones with those underlying conditions so that these teachers are protected. And then I also have tested in the private. The private's requesting for a stimulus package of 7 billion shillings in order to ensure that they rise up again. The government has not said anything about it. So it is time that the government really gets to be proactive. And I'm very sure the president today will, I mean, we are used to his cliche, I direct, instead of directing and then giving feedback to us. So there will be a lot of I direct, the Minister of Education to do ABCD. So I hope those ones who are writing his speech are really in touch with what the common mwananchi feels. There's someone, I think it was Dr. Joan, who was spot on that parents are really tired at home with the children. They don't know what to do. And the president ought to speak directly to the hearts of parents, to the hearts of children, to the hearts of all the stakeholders. And as we wait to reopen fully in January, then the president should enumerate some of the steps he's taking to ensure that come January, we don't close again. So for me, I'm a bit pessimistic, but I hope that the president is going to get the plea of Kenyans. And as I wind up, I'd like to condemn with the strongest terms possible the act of the CS Magua to insult the old Mzee. I think in Eldoret County, Wasingishu County, where insulted
Jasper, let me interject right there, so that you do not digress here and we do not use the platform to condemn in use the words that you've used, the PS there. I think I totally, or personally, this is it was out of order, but let's not do the condemnation on national television. But thank you very much for your feedback in regard to what your thoughts are around, and I hear your challenge there to government. You're not comfortable as a teacher in the way the government is handling the education sector in light of COVID-19. That is Jasper Ondemu, who is a teacher live from Nairobi, giving his sentiments into and as well as expectations ahead of the president's speech this afternoon. Now we cross over to County 001, that is Mombasa County, where our reporter Michael Mwandiga prepared the following report as far as expectations of Kenyans down in Mombasa ahead of the president's speech.
Well, good morning to you, Regina. We are coming to you live from Mombasa. We are here at Kenyatta Avenue as a place normally known as Mapembeni. And it is today that, Regina, the president, I have people here in Mombasa who expect, will give the expectations regarding the president's State of the Nation speech, which is going to brief the nation on what plans he has for the nation, taking into account that the country has been ravaged by the COVID-19 pandemic. And here I'm joined by the women grassroots leaders in Mombasa who will tell me the expectations regarding the president's speech to the nation. Karibu sana Mama Margaret Olang. Waelezee wa Kenya mnatarajia nini rais kuweza kuzungumzia katika hotuba yake kwa taifa? Tazama kamera. Nakusikia.
Tumeshukuru sana Rais Uhuru Kenyatta kama wakaaji wa Mombasa. Corona mkubwa kushinda corona yenyewe ni corruption. Ikiwa Uhuru atatoa watu wote wamepatikana na corruption bila kupoteza wakati kuwapeleka kotini, wakae kando mpaka ijulikane wamefanya nini. Corruption ndio imeharibu Kenya kushinda corona. Mimi naomba President Uhuru Kenyatta, hakuna kazi katika Kenya mtu yote hawezi kufanya. Wale wako kwenye hizo kazi wamebatilika kupata hizo kazi, kuna wengine wanaweza kufanya. Tunataka Uhuru aongee corona ambayo inaitwa corruption.
Asante sana. Na hapa pia niko na mama ambaye anafahamika sana katika masuala ya biashara na pia vile vile ni kiongozi wa kina mama katika kaunti ya Mombasa. Atueleze tu hisia zake na anatarajia nini kiweze kuzungumziwa na Rais Uhuru Kenyatta. Karibu. Majina.
Kwa majina naitwa Janet Mirobi, lakini ile najulikana sana ni Mama Jawambe. Mimi ni mfanyabiashara hapa Mombasa nilipo naishi, lakini kuna shida kubwa sana kwa sababu ya hii corona imekuja mpaka watu wakaichukulia wakaivaa. Badala ya kuitibu wanaivaa wenyewe, wanakaa nayo. Sama hivyo nasikia mama anasema bahati ya corruption ndio inatuua. Kwa sababu ukiangalia sasa kama biashara, sisi tunafungiwa biashara, tunawekwa lockdown ya biashara time fulani, ambayo hiyo time tunapewa ndio ile time basi zinaingia kutoka Nairobi, kutoka kila mahali, mabasi inaingia hiyo time. Unakuta tunakosa biashara because mchana mzima hakuna biashara. Mchana mzima hakuna biashara. Biashara inaanza kuanzia saa 12 ndio biashara inaanza. Sasa ikianza saa 12 na sisi saa 3 tunaambiwa tufunge, sisi tunaumizwa sana mpaka tunashindwa. Tunaona hata wafanyikazi tulikuwa tumewarudisha, tutawarudisha nyumbani kwa sababu hatutakuwa na cha kuwalipa. Kwa hivyo sio mimi peke yangu, ni hotelia wote wana shida hizo. Tunaomba rais wetu atuongezee muda tena, irudi ile time ya 11 o'clock so that tunaweza kupata hiyo mapeni ya kuanzia saa 12 mpaka saa 4 tuweze kuokota, kwa sababu hatutaweza kurudisha wafanyikazi. Ikiwa wafanyikazi tunatakiwa tuwalipe, lakini kazi hakuna, tutawalipa na nini? Kwa hivyo tunaomba rais wetu atufikirie pia sisi wafanyabiashara, kwa sababu kuna shida.
Asante sana. Huyo ni Mama Jawambe mwenye ameweza kuzungumzia kuhusiana na masuala ambayo yanawatatiza sana hapa katika kaunti ya Mombasa. Masuala ya biashara, ameweza kuzungumzia kuweza kutatizwa na gonjwa hili la corona, na pia vile hatua ya rais ya kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba mabaa kuweza kufungwa mwendo wa saa 3, mwendo wa saa 4 usiku, na kafi pia kuweza kuanza mwendo wa saa 4 usiku hadi mwendo wa saa 10 asubuhi. It is indeed their sentiments regarding what is happening at the country or in the country at the moment regarding the corona pandemic. Of course, the economy has been ravaged by this corona virus, and taking into account businesses have been most affected. So the expectation is that the president will talk on the way forward regarding the economy and how to stimulate the stimulation to these businesses to ensure that they pick up and start their life again. It is what we have from here in Mombasa County, and back to you, Regina.
Mr. Speakers, access to decent and affordable housing is a basic human right that my administration is determined and committed to honor. We are fulfilling this through the Affordable Housing Program. To realize this vision, we have promulgated the Affordable Housing Development Framework Guidelines, providing the enabling policy and financing for the rollout of this program. We are now on track to deliver affordable housing to Kenyans. This life-changing program is being undertaken in partnership with county governments as well as the private sector. Indeed, Kenyans have already shown that they are ready for this program. Despite court case delays and initial delays, over 175,000 Kenyans have already registered under the voluntary scheme known as Boma Yangu. These Kenyans will undoubtedly be first in line for the allocation of new housing.
That was the status address Status of the Nation addressed by President Uhuru Kenyatta there, focusing and giving focus and emphasis on affordable housing. We have the housing PS on board this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers.
Yes, Charles Hinga there, the PS housing there, joining us live for this conversation. So what is the status report of Boma Yangu this year, as we speak?
As we speak right now, and that figure is a live figure, we have over 306 Kenyans that have registered themselves on Boma Yangu, so it's almost double where we were last year. That is number one. Number two, out of the 306,000, we have over 22,000 of them that have started voluntarily to save towards a home. We've got close to 500 million shillings that has actually been saved through Bomayangu. This is quite positive. We are very sure that there will be more Kenyans that will join this particular scheme as we endeavor to deliver the housing aspiration to them.
Mm-hmm. Now, within the Big Four agenda, housing, affordable housing has been quite a pillar there, with a target by the end of 2022 that is around 500,000 housing units, 500,000 that is. Are we going to achieve this? Are we on the right path?
We are on the right track, although along the way we've suffered a couple of setbacks. And those setbacks have really slowed us down. As the clip that you just played now, His Excellency the President alluded to the court cases. There were many court cases against the housing fund. Yep. It is very important to understand what was the importance of the housing fund. Through the mandatory contribution, we were going to be able to net 9 billion shillings a month. 9 billion shillings is what was going to come into the fund, and that is what was going to be used to accelerate the delivery of these houses. Now, because of the court cases and the negative sort of flavor that it had, His Excellency the President asked us to vacate the mandatory contribution and move to voluntary contribution. The effect of that is we have now put the mechanism for voluntary contribution, but the pace of saving, the money that we are getting, as you can see, I've just told you, we have about 500 million. And this is money that has been collected for almost 11 months, compared to 9 billion of what we were supposed to collect every month. So the reality of the matter is the inability to raise huge sums of money will definitely affect our ability to deliver the housing dream as had been intended. However, we have not sat on our laurels, and we have not said that now that people went to court, we're not going to pursue this dream. We have looked for an alternative path to delivering of these houses. And this alternative path is through the financial institutions. As I sit right now, I have letters of commitment from 7 commercial banks that will finance Kenyans to a tune of 338 billion shillings. Now, this is where we want Kenyans who are on Bomayangu. They will approach any one of these financial institutions, and they will be given a mortgage which is longer than what is currently available in the market at sub 10% interest rate. Obviously, this will not be able to deliver as we had anticipated with the housing fund, but we are very confident that we will be able to have a significant portion of this delivered.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'd want us to digress, since you handle such a large docket, and I'd want us to take you back to matters of infrastructure. And the President has been very vocal in the need to have, infrastructure for development. Now, maybe you can give us an update on the status of the BRT Lane 2. Update, a status report at the moment?
I'm glad to report that after so many starts, BRT Lane 2 is definitely on track. We have a contractor that we have already hired, and it is a construction contract. As they do the finalization, if you once Kasarani, you will see that construction works for the BRT. More importantly, spend the day, because our agenda not necessarily to one mode of public transport. We work tirelessly to bring a future rate as out of 7 DMUs have the other be arriving soon and going to be complementary bus services to certain places. So rail is going to be the of public transport supported activity. Remember to do, or we will have to be very honest with ourselves in terms of how fast can we be able to move. We are very sure that at very least deliver, which is what you have.
Maybe, Bwana PS, we need to let you go for a few minutes. It seems we are having a problem with your network. But before I even let you go, I'd want, we understand, especially from persons using the Thika Road, yeah, the line 2 or the Simba lane is being done this year, but the contractor appears to be, is mobilizing really slow. What is your take on that, sir, before we let you go?
I think that is a wrong assumption, because when you say he's mobilizing slow, it's relative to what is a period that they are supposed to do certain things. As I say, it's a design, so we want, and they have got to, but because we say the design for the station is already done, can we now towards the actual construction.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your time, sir. Thank you for giving your insight in regard to what is happening both on infrastructure as well as housing. Bearing in mind that housing is affordable housing is one of the big 4 agendas that the president prioritized and is also prioritizing in his term. And there was a lot of focus last year in his address there, saying that we are working forward to ensure that a majority of Kenyans get a decent home. PS there, housing, Charles Hinga saying, yes, there have been a bit of headwinds here and there, especially with the court cases and the dropping of the housing levy. Now it's voluntary, and the numbers as we speak, we have 306 who have registered on Boma Yangu, as well as 22,000 Kenyans saving voluntarily towards owning a home. Keep your feedback coming in regard to your expectations in regard to the President's State of the Nation address set for this afternoon. As you work up to give us your feedback and your expectations on our social media platforms, we take a short break. We'll be right back.
Article 132 of the Constitution and House Standing Orders obligate the President of Kenya to address a joint sitting of the Houses on matters that touch on national values. The State of the Nation address is an annual constitutional requirement where the President is accorded the opportunity to address the nation on all the measures taken and the progress achieved in the realization of the national values. President Uhuru Kenyatta has in the past delivered the address between March and May. Last year, he gave the address on April 4th, where he briefed the nation on the progress his administration had made towards realizing his legacy-defining projects. He also dwelt on the war on graft, as well as the Building Bridges initiative. He pointed out further that there will be no turning back on devolution, as it was the answer to unequal development. This year's address had been delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic. The first case of the virus was reported in the country in March. In this year's address, the head of state will likely take stock of the Big Four agenda, The president may also root for the Building Bridges Initiative vehicle, which he believes will deliver equity and national unity. President Kenyatta will also report to Parliament the measures taken to achieve national values, progress in fulfillment of international obligations, and state of security. In their communication to the Houses on Tuesday, Speaker Justin Muturi and his counterpart, Kenneth Lusaka, said the House attendance will be in compliance with the social distancing directives by the Health Ministry.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
You will not understand this, Khalatak, because you have never made any sacrifices, nor fought on battlefields, nor dedicated yourself for the unity and integrity of India.
You had decided her fate the day you fixed her marriage with that Bindusar.
Meet me at the house built in the forest adjacent to the western part of the palace.
If I die today, then the countdown to your death will begin. Your death.
On the next episode of
Mimi sioni faida ya kuishi mama. Hebu mama niambie ukweli, kwa nini ulikuja na mimi kwenye hii nyumba? Kwa nini baba hanipendi?
Sitafikia maneno hayo. Nimesema ondoka bwana. Amka. Ondoka hapa. Inuka ukakae kule. Nini wewe?
Ni kweli. Jamaa mpigo miaka 10 gerezani, alafu unajua mpigo fanya hizi milioni 3.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Wow! Congratulations, Atito. You know, I've always wanted to put on nangao, put on makeup. You know, things like those.
Very good thing. Atito, my friend. I thought you'll never find love after that. Joanne.
Please leave the bear out of this.
Okay, now I get this. You are married and you still have unresolved issues.
Julia, leave me alone, okay? Laugh if you must. Laugh, eh? Hata ukitaka kupiga duru, piga. Just don't let me see a fool in front of me.
Kinyanju, you said I'm laughing. Okay, you people are so unfair. Why does everybody think that I do not care what happened to you guys?
Guess who the celebrity is? Atito.
Not yet, teacher. Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
We are being paid to show up to work from 8 to 5. Sometimes when that comes to an end, we are at a loss for words.
It is one of the most memorable periods of my life because when you travel, you engage with people of different cultures, you meet people of different personalities, and you learn a lot. But it never lasted for too long. We underwent a retrenchment experience from the Pride of Africa. So imagine you've been retrenched 6 or 7 months down the line. I had to shift houses. You are living hand to mouth. I tell them that your employer ain't your mommy or your daddy.
Good morning. Thank you that you're still watching KBC Channel 1. This is Good Morning Kenya. Now, COVID, BBI, corruption. These are some of the areas that Kenyans want the president to focus on as he gives his speech this afternoon for the bicameral parliament there, with only 114 MPs this time sitting in owing to COVID-19 health protocols. Keep your feedback coming through, and we're getting it on all our social media platforms. And Jane.
Absolutely. The hashtag is still Good Morning Kenya and hashtag State of the Nation. Let me get straight to it. Remember, we welcome your thoughts. Let's start with one Honorable Joseph Sifuna. This one says President Uhuru's speech during the State of the Nation address is predictable. He goes on to say that, number one, the president is going to issue out a warning corrupt mafias in the executive and state parastatals. B, the urgent need to change the constitution. And C, the dilemma between the two rights. Hashtag State of the Nation. We have Charles who's saying, in regards to expectations, the most urgent global concern right now is how countries can ensure their citizens access the COVID-19 vaccine, and across the world, and our countries are already booking the vaccine. As the president makes the State of the Nation address, I hope this shall be prioritized. We move on to another tweet by Sir Vickery Omwado, who says, President should outline a clear roadmap for food security. All Kenyans deserve at all time physical and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food to meet the daily needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. We also have a tweet by Nabat Kadenge Imbuki, who says, Kenyans are broke and disillusioned. BBI is not a priority to me. Corona and the economy, please, is what he's hoping are going to be touched on in regards to the president's speech. And finally, we have one Seth Olale, who says, divisive politics, graft in government and beyond, leadership and misleadership, the pains and positives in the pandemic, the details in devolution, and the faces of the young and promising but also endangered, a taste of State of the Nation. Those are just some of the areas that he's looking to be addressed in regards to what will be happening about the State of the Nation address. So these are some of the tweets that we have received so far in regards to your expectations as to what you are hoping the president will touch. And rightfully, Regina, some of the issues that you have pointed out there, including BBI, COVID-19, education, the health of the nation, now being put forth is the whole issue to do with the COVID-19 vaccine, as well as the battered economy, given that we are trying to come on the other end of this pandemic.
Now, rightfully so, if we can just look at some of the highlights that the president, focused on last year, that was in April.
Absolutely.
And he talked about, he said that indeed the State of the Nation was strong, and that was his opening remark during that speech last year. Now, he said that he expected that the economy would grow at an annual average of 6.6%. But statistics from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics indicate that in between, the economy has contracted by 5.7% during the same period, that is April to June this year. And so much has been pegged on the issue of the COVID-19 disruptions there. That also further on indicates that 1.7 million Kenyans are said to have lost their jobs in between April and June alone. That is according to statistics from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. One of the other issues that came out clearly last year was on the cost of food would come down.
Yes.
Now, beginning of the year, we've just highlighted the story of the locust as well as the COVID-19 disruptions. And the inflation rate right now is over the roof, with most Kenyans saying that they can barely afford 3 square meals.
Absolutely. And just to add on to what you have just rightfully put right there, Regina, we actually have a copy of the president's speech as of last year. And just as you rightfully put it, he started by saying the nation is strong. This was the address that he gave last year, the 4th of April in Parliament. His opening statement was, the state of our nation is strong. And just, I know you cannot be able to see this from your end, but just looking at some of the things that, he highlighted, he did touch on issues to do with devolution. We know some people were saying devolution needs to be relooked at, but he said that devolution is one of the things that we are still steadfast focusing on. He also mentioned the issues to do with the BBI, saying that this is part of what we are going to be using to keep going as a nation. Looking at still also what he had pointed out last year during the State of the Nation address, he also mentioned issues to do with the Big Four agenda. So many Kenyans are hoping that that is going to be touched on today, to just see how far we have come, especially during this year that so much has been brought to a standstill. More so looking at the economy, issues to do with the employment factor, which was skyrocketing and more so affecting the youth. So also we're just looking at the fact that whether he's going to also acknowledge some Kenyans who are out here just carrying the name high and shining the Kenyan flag high and also the national anthem all over the country. Remember, during that time, we had Kipchoge, who was shining. We had Peter who was lauded for the best teacher in the world. So those are just some of the highlights from last year's speech.
Now, looking at expectations and focusing now on members of parliament, quoted here is a minority leader in the National Assembly. This is John Mbadi. He says, in terms of the economy, the whole world has been affected by the virus, and until the vaccine is discovered, world economies will continue to suffer. So the president is going to talk about exclusivity and democracy. He will give us a roadmap on the expected reform under BBI. That is according to Subab South MP. John Mbadi there, who also serves as the minority leader in the National Assembly. Now, crossing to the Senate, Senate Whip Majority Whip Irungu Kang'ata said the president that he hopes the president will highlight the benefits of BBI to the country, in particular the Ward Development Fund, which I have championed consistently as a legislator. Those are some of the expectations of Senate Majority Whip Irungu Kang'ata. Now, for Ishungwa, that is a Kikuyu MP Kimani Ishungwa, he says he also wants to understand the president's plan in the fight against the pandemic, as well the action that will be taken against those who will be mentioned and those mentioned in the Kenya medical supplies scandal. Remember, Kenya is riding the second wave in as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Reports both on social media as well as mainstream media, including our news desk, indicate that several hospitals, especially within the county units, frontline workers are worried about the rate of exposure and to them, given that they do not have PPEs, so to speak. In an article that has also been highlighted here in one of the dailies, it indicates that now, in light of that particular development, is that the government is going to incur a loss in the sale of those PPEs at KEMSA in light of this development, and as far as matters of graft, allegations of graft at KEMSA are concerned. Remember, more details in regard to this and so much many more stories revolving around sports, business, as well as what is happening in the political scene. You can find them all available on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. We keep on sampling your views in regard to your expectation ahead of the president's speech this afternoon, the status of the nation address there. What is unique, Jania, is that the president is set to unveil Kiswahili House rules today.
Yes.
Now, he will unveil the Kiswahili and bilingual versions of the National Assembly Standing Orders, making Kenya's parliament the second after Canada to have a translated version of the House rules. Now, those people who prefer speaking in Swahili, then the House rules are going to be known as Kanuni za Kudumu. And it was developed over 1.5 years and is aimed at promoting the use of the national language in Parliament.
And that is going to officially start today and every other Thursday in Parliament. But remember, we still welcome your thoughts and your expectations in regards to the State of the Nation address. We'll keep letting you know, some of the different things that so far we have noted about this State of the Nation address, as we welcome your thoughts as well. And now we have one tweet from Generali Kiprotich, who says there is nothing much to expect from the State of the Nation address. Remember, the president has just got roughly 700 days to go. And this reminds me of a previous tweet that we had read, Regina. Someone say, they literally have no expectations about today's speech because they say it is very predictable. We know what he's going to be touching on. And again, there's that voice that is ringing among the population, a voice of, despair, lack of hope. But let's just hope for the best. I mean, it's the State of the Nation address. We want to know how the country is doing so far. Ama vipi?
I agree with you. And I like what members of the Bunge la Mwananchi, as Doreen got them there at Jivanji, what they were sharing in regard to their expectation. The point on the war on graft. And we have seen over the last few months, issues of graft. And if I can quote what one of them says, is that it seems that we are losing the fight with the slow judicial process. The president warned corrupt persons of their deeds, but we have so far seen no one prosecuted since he spoke. Now, this brings me to the fact that President Uhuru Kenyatta is definitely expected, to give an update on the milestones that his government has taken in dealing with this menace that we term as corruption, given that early this week, actually Tuesday, he received a report from on Wednesday, from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, and I'm sure this is going to highly feature in his speech this afternoon. So we'll be keenly waiting to see what he's going to take in as far as corruption is concerned. Remember, there's been a push and pull between the executive and the judiciary, especially coming after, the directive given there by CJ Maraga on the dissolution of parliament, and also Maraga coming out strongly in a public address saying that the president is reluctant, to append his signature on a list of judges and magistrates, and this is compromising, services of the judiciary. So we'll be keenly focusing on and keenly listening on what the president has to say as far as corruption is concerned in light of those developments.
Yes.
And I'm also going to be looking at how different this State of the Nation address is going to be, given the current health protocols, Jane. What we are made to understand is that MPs will not be allowed to invite guests.
As it has been, the previous tradition. Of course, a limited number. We only have about 114 who are going to be present. There will be no main function of good. There will be some drinks and snacks served, but as is tradition, this will not be the way we usually see things going. Limited numbers, social distancing, of course, expected. Seating arrangements will be a bit different, as we have seen previously. But still keeping up with the tweets that we are receiving in regards to the State of the Nation address. Bere pharmacist says Uhuru should tell the nation the plans he has to for economic recovery and not why we should change the constitution. Again, remember, we welcome your thoughts in regards to your expectations of what you are hoping the president will touch on later on in the day at about 2 p.m. when we bring you the live feed of what will be happening as he gives the State of the Nation address. Kelvin Mungai saying nothing will be said by the head of the nation. It is all shenanigans. People are dying of hunger, and it is Kenya who is donating to other nations. Again, rightfully so, you are allowed to feel how you feel given the state we are in, but we still welcome your thoughts in regards to your expectations as and when the president starts to give the State of the Nation address.
There's not going to be a reception after the address. Kila mtu aende nyumbani. I don't know, what are your expectations, Jane, of, the president this afternoon?
This is one of those times that, so much has been pegged on the president. And I remember some time ago, Sam was having a discussion in regards to the administration of the president, and the fact that sometimes the president is blamed for the lack of action and the consequences of those under him failing to do what they are supposed to do. And looking at days like this, where he has to stand and tell the nation how different sectors of the economy are doing, the education system, progress so far, looking at his administration, given this is the seventh address he's going to be making, given this is second term, the fact that he has to tell the nation what has been working, what hasn't been working, and all this are under his juniors who are supposed to be delivering on his behalf is a lot for him as the president. But again, he is the president, so he has to bear the cross when it comes to taking charge and, just taking the blame, quote unquote, as we are seeing from obvious, because that there is that voice that is ringing about blame in regards to what is not happening, what is happening, and what needs to be done. And more so looking at issues to do with corruption, because that has remained to be a big problem in our country. But at least this time, with the report that DPP boss did give the president, he did point out that there are some big fish that are going to have to face the full force of the law, with pointing out that the last 3 years they have managed to just amass, or rather take back wealth that is about 224 billion Kenya shillings of taxpayers' money.
Now, in my opinion, I'd want to see how the president is going to handle the matters of COVID-19 COVID-19 vis-a-vis the BBI, given that the rhetoric that we're hearing is that we might be heading to a referendum soon with all the conversations around there. So how are we going to handle it, or how is his government planning to handle this situation in light of the current developments as far as COVID-19 is concerned? The president began his speech last year saying the state of our nation is strong. KBC Channel 1 will be live to bring you up to speed with what is going to be said today in Parliament during the State of the Nation address. Is it going to be the same, or rather similar, as it was in 2019? Definitely not. We have other issues that we are dealing with as a country, matters of COVID-19. Now, up next is a news check where we're going to be having Ben Troy Chumba as well as Safin Acheng, who is in Parliament, just waiting to bring us up to speed with what is happening on ground. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a pleasant day ahead.
And I'm Jane Wamboi. Thank you so much for staying with us. We appreciate you for being part of Good Morning Kenya. Keep the conversation going using hashtag State of the Nation. Have a lovely day. God bless. See you next week.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
This week on Wake Up and Makeup, it's going to be a girly girl affair. Cheers! We continue to munch on what I would call a starter before our main course at Chef Wool's Sushi Bar. And this is what makes the coffee so special. We actually have a real gold leaf. Wow. I don't think we should drink it. We should probably gather it and take it to we can make a cargo. Get some tips on how to enjoy a day's out with the girls. Sculpting is an art not meant for the faint-hearted, and Cheryl Nagawa learned this secret way back when she was still very young.
It's been a talent of mine ever since I was young, but let me see, my dad used to draw, so it's something that it was like something I was admiring. So out of the skills I had, nika practice too, and then out of my father, I just continued till now. It just became a part of me. So even in school, I was doing it part-time, I was doing for people. Uni, I was doing for people. Yeah, so it was inborn, nekabaki, and I've continued it till now. Just progressing on my skill.
Indeed, Nagawa started off small by making baby steps every dawning day. Her interest, however, got locked on sculpting, and it soon became her way of life.
Well, so far, I can say It was a progress. I started, it's an art progress for me, because I started as an artist, as a painter. Then I grew, started doing models and 3D sculptures. Until now, I'm doing sculptures. So for me, it's actually been a journey. But where I am now, I am very comfortable. So I can say mostly I just do sculpting, but I can also do the other things. Yeah, but my end goal is to incorporate my artwork to interiors. So it's all the skills that I've learned, going to sculptures, and then going into interiors.
Her constant interactions with different artists who have built careers and names in this industry is what she attributes to the big influence she has had. Most important, though, is her persistence in seeking for perfection.
I have met so many. I've met so many, that's how I've been able to improve my skill. So far, the one I have, I can mention a lot, but let me say, most of them are, let me say, I know them personally, it won't really make a difference, but whatever they are, they know. But the one I'm with now, we are partners, and we work in a company called 3D Exhibitions, and we do the sculpting. We just work with 3D forms of artworks so far now, yeah.
The process to have a sculpture done is not a complicated one, as she puts it. All that is important is for the client to accept how he or she looks.
Kwanza unafaa kujipenda venye uko, accept, tukikuchora unakubali. First of all, you have to love yourself. Give us your best picture, give us your best side. Tukikuja, when you get the concepts from you, like the pictures and whatever you want, maybe you want this side, you give us the pictures, you give us what you want. After we can make you look superhuman if you want to. It's possible. But for the way we start, you give us pictures, or even you can come, we take good pictures of you. And from there we get to know all your angles. Then we can get, we use some materials, we plaster you, we create you the way you are. We call you back, una inspect before even we now cast it out, ikwe final. So we tell you, come, see your face. Ukiona kuna kitu we rectify. If you're 100% with it, we go to the next stage, of which we cast. We use another material that hardens up. And then sasa hiyo ikisha hardens, now that's your face, we sandpaper, and then afterwards we do paint work. Then it actually looks like you. So unaweza ibeba, you go with it home, you put it in your office, you put anywhere you want. It's yours. And it's very lightweight, so si kitu nzito. Yeah. For fiberglass, I prefer it because it's durable and it's very lightweight. You know, sometimes someone wouldn't want to have maybe a bust of their head and ni mawe too, you're just putting there on the mini. You know, this is lightweight. You can carry it, even when you kirusha chini, it's very hard for it to get dented. It's just the way it is, the material the way it is, but the way it finishes up, it's just good. It's good. Let me say it's portable. Yeah. And it's long lasting.
Just like most art forms, sculpting is not as appreciated as it should. While people make their images sculpted, they do not understand what it takes.
I've been in this industry for a very long time. Of course, the first people you meet are the people in your country. So sometimes ukipeleka mtu, someone is like, this seems like you've just taken 2 seconds on it. Why should I pay all this much on it? And it's a whole process. It's ukikuja as a client to tell me you want this. I have to go back and rethink it and be like, this is what the client wants. I need materials, and it's a whole process. That's what most Africans don't understand. And I'm not saying about it. There are some who do, there are some who don't. But maybe it's more on us to educate them. We try to even make videos of the whole process so that they know it's not, I just came here, sat in Kanza. No. It's a whole process of creating one project can even take weeks, even months. But that's the hard work of it. That's what I can say. And I can say it's because for us at Wambi, maybe we don't say it well for them to understand.
Like any other profession, challenges are not hard to come by.
As an artist, first of all, most people take it like it's not a career thing. So, kabla wambia mtu unafanya hii full time, someone's like, how is this even possible? How are you able to get money and all those things? It's so hard for people to understand. So as a sculptor, as for now, it's also difficult because it's a new skill. People are used to paintings and what's it called? Even wall murals, just simple things people are used to. This one, someone's like, Yoni karatasi, what's that? Is it mawe? What's happening? Yeah. So as a sculptor, I can say for now is people don't understand. They're used to the mainstream ones, which are paintings and all those people, pencil work, mini. But as a sculptor, it's very new. So it's also on us to market ourselves the right way. What we're doing. This is also another type of art that people should appreciate the way they appreciate the other ones. One thing is the materials. Huh? They're very pricey. Yeah? Unaingia kwa mfuko unasikia tu kulia. You have to, if you're creating something, even something really small, you can waste a lot of money on it. Okay, not waste. Okay, let me just say waste, because if you compare with other artworks, you maybe just need a paper and maybe paint and everything, which is manageable. But when it comes to sculpting, there's a lot of things that comes with it. There's the material, where you have to, the modeling itself, where you need to clay, you need even plasticine, as in there's a lot of things that comes with it. Then also the fiberglass. The fiberglass is very expensive. Just to use it, you need to use a lot to create more. So if you're creating something big, you have to use a lot of materials. That comes back to your money. So at the end of the day, I can just say, we are not doing it as such because in a tomb is a problem. And if someone will want it, there are very few who do. It's not as let me say, it's not out there so much. So if someone an attack has sculpture, it's very few of them, and don't want to me just to create it. So if you get that person who appreciates it 100%, akikupatia that amount, you can be able to create. You can reciprocate bigger, fatter, as in it depends. Yeah.
After all is said and done, Nagawa is still determined more than ever to be the best in sculpting and hopes that the upcoming sculptures will heed her advice.
Advice ya kwanza, be patient. 100%. If you're not patient, you're not going anywhere. I can tell you, you're not going anywhere. Be patient and accept criticism. Because not everyone will understand your work. Some people will do, few people will do, many will criticize. So you have to be ready for criticism anytime, any day. And the third thing is just appreciate your work. Love it. If you love it, everyone else will.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
This week on Wake Up and Makeup, it's going to be a girly girl affair. Cheers! We continue to munch on what I would call a starter before our main course at Chef U's Sushi Bar. And this is what makes the coffee so special. We actually have a real gold leaf. Wow. I don't think we should drink it. We should probably gather it and take it to we can make a gold. Get some tips on how to enjoy a days out with the girls.